tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you. So just a reminder for everyone at home, you can either log into tonight's Zoom webinar session using the login ID and password on our webpage. All the agenda items and the agenda itself are posted there as well. Or you can watch it on TV9, which is broadcasting it live. If you want to be able to participate, you need to use the raise your hand function. And when we get to that particular hearing item, once we've gone through kind of our normal process, which is for the chairman to open the item, read it into the record if it needs to be read into the record, and then discussion or presentation from the applicant or their engineer, discussion between the engineer and the commission. At that point, once that portion is complete, the chairman will open it up to the public. And again, you can use that raise your hand function. We'll know that you have questions, and we'll take those in order that we see the hands raised. Outside of that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Richard.
Jennifer, on my screen, it's telling me that this is also streaming on YouTube.
Oh, yes, thank you. So we are not streaming it on Facebook. When we were expecting a bigger crowd, we were going to do Facebook, but we are streaming it on YouTube as well, which is the town's YouTube channel.
And I see a gentleman from the past, Mr. Clegg.
I'm gonna say that. Hi, Chris.
Are you looking to fill a spot?
Got an RDA.
He's first on the agenda tonight.
Yeah. Okay, first on the agenda this evening is an RDA from 187 Monarch Drive. This is a proposed, excuse me, lean-to garage addition and associated grading within the jurisdiction of wetland resource areas. And who is here presenting tonight?
Christopher Clegg.
Thank you very much. Go ahead and present your project.
So there is an existing garage, 24 by 24, attached to my house. And off the rear side of the garage, the westerly facing side, I'd like to put a lean-to, so 3 sides, which would connect to the garage. The dimensions would be 12 feet deep, extending towards the wetlands, and 18 feet wide. It does come within 51 feet 7 inches of the wetland line that was delineated in 2000 by a local engineer. As far as grading goes, it's, did I lose you? Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, no, she's putting it on the screen.
Gotcha. As far as grading goes, it is a flat location. There will be 2 piers, 18-inch diameter piers that will support most of the weight. That fill will be excavated and removed from site. Other than that, it'll be a slab on grade. The soil that's there now is really over soil that was there from when we did the construction of the house. So it's sand and gravel. Yep, you can see it demarked there with the post. That was just left from 20 years ago. So I guess if you're looking at the picture, the post closest to the stairs would be the closest dimension to the wetlands, correct? And it's been a while since I've done this. Is there any questions?
Would there be any driving back there in that section?
No, it's going to be storage for like a golf cart, a little John Deere Gator, and a lawnmower. Currently, where I'm storing them, the mice and birds and everything gets in there. So it'll be a concrete slab on grade, just something so I can seal it up so I don't have vermin issues.
Chris, are you proposing to use hay bales, or mostly everybody are using wattles now?
Yeah, no, I have plenty of hay bales.
Okay.
Jennifer mentioned this later. I could put those in really from the staircase all the way back to that existing shed, which will be removed upon completion of the project.
We prefer wattles overall because they can be left to degrade. So these are pretty good quality hay bales that are really going to be tight and do the
Oh,
job.
yeah.
Okay.
No, they're 4x2 hay bales, densely packed. Same ones that we would use to straw hay bales.
Right, right.
Is there a reason you're not using 1.5-inch stone for the base or the floor of the shed rather than pouring concrete?
No, I prefer concrete just to make seal it up better, so you don't get the moisture coming through, because there will be 2 vehicles parked in there. So figure with anything other than that, the ground moisture will work on rusting the undercarriage of the
You're
2
going to
units.
ready mix?
What's that?
Are you going to use ready mix?
Yeah, this is so the project started. I had another project off-site where I was using a concrete pumper truck. So I'm like, oh, if this was done ahead of time, I would have used that. So most likely I'll be mixing it on site. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have
All right.
a small 1/3 yard cement mixer that attaches to a tractor. So I'll probably just be mixing it in small batches.
Small batches, okay.
Are the staircases staying? Is that
Yeah.
staircase staying?
Yep, it'll just work its way underneath the staircase.
There's no danger that that's closer than, no, it looks like it fits in there. So you're gonna park some sort of ATV type vehicle here. I'm looking at the overall site plan. Where are we driving it to? We're not driving this out into resource areas or anything like that?
No, just to the lawn. There'll be 2 units. One's a lawnmower, which I use to mow my front and rear lawn and some side yard. And the other one's just a John Deere Gator that we take over to our farm. So no AT, like it's a utility
yep.
vehicle.
And so you're taking it over road to get back to where you're going.
Yeah, we have an adjoining property that has a greenhouse and we grow potted herbs. So we use that John Deere Gator to haul potted herbs back and forth, or flowers.
Gotcha.
But right now they're stored in like a covered structure, like a greenhouse type covered structure, but just a landscape mat for a floor. It doesn't seal up. The sides are open. So
basically it's a flat space, it's a flat property, and you're not changing the amount of lawn available for water to run off at all with this project.
no, and actually it's a low spot. If with the ground, it's got exceptional drainage. There's 18 feet of gravel, sand underneath in that location. But if we do get a rainfall on frozen ground, the water actually does pool by the staircase. So it's actually lower than where the wetlands line is. So there would be almost, I'm not going to raise the grade more than 4 inches for a concrete pad.
I see. This is over at Fort Town. I got you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the commission? Yeah, I'll accept a -3. The work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the act. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent, subject to the following conditions. Prior to ground disturbance activities, erosion and sediment controls must be installed as indicated on the approved plan and inspected by the conservation agent. The erosion controls shall be left in place until the disturbed soils have been stabilized with grass that has grown to a mowable height and density.
So moved, Chris Carney.
Real quick on that one, I'm sorry. So we're gonna need a revised plan that shows the erosion controls. So Chris, if you could just get us a revised plan that adds those in, that would be great.
Sure. Just
Okay.
leave it in the box out front. Town
Yeah.
hall.
Yep.
Second, Nathan Stosha.
All in favor?
Hi, Mike Campagnon.
Hi, Chris Carney.
Hi, Rob Emlin.
Hi, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Chair Wallace.
Sorry, Rob, you were second. I'll try to remember that. You went alphabetical.
Good seeing you again, Chris.
Will work just fine with it in that order.
I appreciate all you guys do. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Chris. Good seeing you again.
Be well.
You too. Stay safe. Okay, next on the agenda was scheduled with an RDA for 785 Taunton Avenue. This filing has been withdrawn.
Yep, they're gonna come back in with a notice of intent for the next.
Oh, they're coming back with an NOI? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, next on the agenda is an RDA, 103 Jean Drive, map 6, lot 237, proposed septic system repair and associated grading within jurisdictional wetland resource areas. And who is here representing the applicant?
Should be Peter Lavoy. Okay. Peter, are you unmuted?
I'm here right now, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Are you planning on screen sharing or should I just leave these slides up?
If you can leave them, that'd be great.
Okay,
I'm here for 103 Jean Street. It's an existing 3-bedroom house. They had a Title V done on the septic system in the backyard. The system passed, but it was a conditional approval because the D-box needed to be replaced. So everything is good with the septic system, except that the D-box needs to be replaced. So basically, all they're gonna do is dig a hole to expose the D-box, take the old D-box out, put the new D-box in and backfill it. There's no change in grade. There's no vegetation being cut down. I did propose wattles around the D-box. And that's basically it. We have like an existing intermittent stream on the left-hand side of the property right there. There's an existing head wall, which the street drainage from Jean Drive and additional streets north all are collected and it discharges right here. So I had the stream bank flagged, which is from R1 to R6. That's what the flags were out in the field. And that's it. That's basically all they want to do is just replace the D-box so they can sell the house.
Peter, what was the nature of the failure of the D-box?
It was degraded. Structurally, it wasn't working properly. So it basically, the effluent goes into the D-box and then it does get to the leach field, but it's also, going outside, you know what I mean? Because there's cracks in the
Oh,
D-box.
okay. So it was a structural failure.
Correct. Yep, just on the D-box. That's it.
Okay. Just curious.
Jen, does this look like a project that we had an driveway addition done on? Long time ago.
Oh, no, that's 225 Jean Drive. I know which one you're talking about. The different one.
Yeah,
wow.
that was more across the back of the house. Not-
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this. This is all gonna get done quick and reseeded, correct, Peter?
Correct. Probably take maybe an hour and a half to do.
Right.
Are they planning on
Me.
doing it soon or are they waiting until?
I would think that as soon as they get approval, as soon as you guys, if you say it's a negative, that they would do it as soon as possible. I know that the installer has already, put the permit into the Board of Health. Because I think the house is already sold, that's why.
Oh,
Even if it's a negative, could we eventually get a plan with the 25 and the 50 on them rather than just 100?
I can do that. I can add that. No problem.
Okay. And then So in terms of timing though, they probably won't be able to seed for a little bit. So just the erosion controls will need to stay for a little while.
Correct, yep. Same as the last one that I did on Davis Street, that they're gonna keep the
Okay.
wattles up.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? Okay, I will accept a -3. The work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter any area subject to protection under the act. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent subject to the following conditions. Prior to ground disturbance activities, erosion and sediment controls must be installed as indicated on the approved plan and inspected by the conservation agent. The erosion controls shall be left in place until the disturbed soil has been stabilized with grass that has grown to a mowable height and density.
So moved, Mike Campagnon.
Second, Nate Sosha.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Hi, Richard Wallace.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is it's another withdrawal. This is for an NOI. Was for a local filing. It's 45 Industrial Court. This was a proposed asphalt plant that was to be located in the industrial park. They have withdrawn, and should they refile, they will have to notify all the abutters as they did in the original filing. Okay, next on the agenda is a SE 690913. This is a continuance. And what is our next meeting date, Jennifer?
March 8th.
March 8th. Okay, thank you. I forgot. Didn't look at it. Okay, I'll accept a motion to continue SE 6909131727 Fall River Avenue until March 8th at sometime after 7 p.m.
So move, Chris Carney.
Second, Mike Campagnon.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Rob?
We lost Rob.
Aye, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Hi, Richard Wallace. Okay, next on the agenda is the notice of intent. This was continued from the January 11th meeting. This is SE 690914 Oak Hill Avenue, map 34, lot 392, proposed construction of a single-family dwelling with septic system and associated grading within the jurisdictional wetland areas. Who is here representing the applicant?
Good evening. This is Mark Mariano with Oak Hill Engineering.
Hi, Mark. Do you want me to stop sharing so you can share the plan?
Yep.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This is the continued filing that we had filed in December of 2020. And we continued it pending comments from TRC and decision on planning. Planning has approved. The only comment that came up during TRC was the request to do a a hammerhead that met the standards for, or met a criteria, NFP for a turnaround. And working with Captain Lowry, she requested 126 on the distance. So what this ended up doing from the original filing, we just moved the property line back and extended it. We also turned it a little bit to get it out of the 50-foot buffer. And also a request from the last meeting in December was to provide some sort of stone system here that would slow down the water coming off the roadway or coming off the, the gravel drive here, and treat it a little bit and just kind of just diffusing it so it doesn't run into the wetlands fast. So we did that by a strip of stone that's 28 feet long, 3 feet wide, and the contractor should dig down about 1.5 feet, and it should be filled with crushed stone, 1.5 inch minus stone. They can choose to top dress it if they want to make it look nicer with some finer stone in the end. But that was the item that we addressed. House still same position, septic still same position. The other things that were updated were the original plan you guys saw was on an assumed datum, and we had to update it to NAVD 88 datum. Any questions?
So does the grading work to get all that water through that thing, or is just a portion of it going to pass through that?
So I obviously didn't want to turn it in a weird way that it would look odd, but the ideal low point is this point right here, and it's going to continue on across this way. And that's why we did it 28 foot, 28 foot long one, so that it would kind of try to grab most of
Does
that.
what is the note? Does the note of the driveway to be directed to? Is that what it
The
says, if I
driveway.
recall?
Yep, grade driveway to force all water
Okay.
to a crushed.
Now, a crushed stone swale like that, as I was just learning recently, is going to need some maintenance by the homeowner if a lot of sand gets into it, because that would then defeat its purpose.
Hmm.
They're going to have to be careful about cleaning it out if there's a lot of sand from the road for it to be effective.
So the maintenance of this road is going to be handled by the owner. Likely not going to be sanded and the same type
So
of.
it's not, a lot of
contaminants.
fines aren't likely to get in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this whole area is all sand and gravel.
So that'll perk it out too.
Yeah. This would be different if it was like on Lincoln Street, but here it's better.
And you made it all the way through the process on that, huh? They've approved it. Is this 2 separate parcels? Is that what this turns into?
It's one parcel, and it's this right of way. The right of way is not going to be accepted by the town, and it will fall to the maintenance of the owner of the home to provide the maintenance to that right of way.
So it becomes a private road?
Exactly. Yeah. For simple terms, yeah.
And the
This is-
town's not responsible for any of the maintenance? The
Exactly.
mailman doesn't go down it, the plows don't go down it?
Correct. Plows, maintenance, they got to take their trash out to the edge. But if it is technically still a public access, so you and I can drive down there and we're not technically on private property.
That's odd.
Mark, is there a measurement from the closest corner of the turnaround?
There's a foot difference between here and there.
Okay. And usually those are called out on the plan, just so from the wetland line, just so we know exactly where it's supposed to be, that corner, for as-built comparison.
So Jen, one thing that I'm waiting from assessors is to just give it a map and a lot number. The other thing that we did, I assigned it as One Brody Way. Obviously, there wouldn't be any of the houses here, but I figured that this is better that you guys record it as an actual address, because ultimately in the end, if you look up 0 Oak Hill Ave, there's like 7 other properties on Oak Hill Ave that are 0 Oak Hill Ave.
Mhm.
So I do need to get you a new plan with given.
Okay.
So I can add that dimension string.
Any other questions for the commission?
No.
Does it say somewhere on the plan that I missed that this is a paved asphalt driveway?
It's meets DOT standards, so either they can pave it or they can use a subgrade, a dense grade subbase, or they can pave, a section of it that's 12 feet wide, but they have to maintain a 20-foot wide access at
Yeah,
all
but
times.
it's not gravel or stone dust.
I don't know. We kind of really didn't make that decision if it gets paved or not paved.
Integrated crushed stone's kind of like what you see in like New Hampshire, like dirt roads out there. It's
Yeah.
pretty durable.
Yeah, but you know what? That just goes to our initial concern about runoff from this thing going down the hill and
Yeah.
not, basically what we have here is what amounts to a small road and that has gotten to not have to go through all the rigmarole of a subdivision approval, but it's still a big chunk of impervious area shaped like a road,
Does that gravel bank, was it calculated based on it being paved? There's the maximum impermeable.
Well, he's not required to meet the stormwater policy because it's single family house.
But he did add that, and I was wondering what calculation was used for the sizing of the gravel.
The size as far as retention, it was, our thought was just to provide a way that we're diffusing the water from running and shedding super fast into the wetlands. It is going to infiltrate, a good amount because it's 1.5 feet deep. We didn't do a hydrocal or anything on that, if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
So I guess the interesting point that Rob brings up here, though, is that we don't know what type of material we're looking at for this basically this roadway. Each of those has its own issues, and I can't believe I'm thinking that pavement would be better than crushed stone, but at least it's unknown, I mean, I don't really have a problem with it because it's not beholden to the stormwater policy, and for the most part, the whole damn thing is outside of the 50-foot, and there's only a small portion of it that's going to be in the 100-foot, but there could be a contribution down that hill but it's also not required to meet the stormwater policy, so I don't know where I fall. Richard, do you have an opinion on the material type for the driveway?
If you could either use a bituminous or a well-packed, high density processed gravel, would be just the same.
Do you want to condition it that way?
Yeah. I'm sorry, say again?
Do you want to condition it that way?
Do we want them to specify what type of material is allowable in the driveway?
I mean, you could condition it in the sense that, because we're going to have to sign off on this project eventually in the end. And if Jennifer sees that the gravel is loose and running down the road, it's something that, if they choose gravel in the end, that, we just won't get sign off until it's stabilized, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but I think it's good for us to condition it on the front end, like have it be one of the orders of conditions or have it be referenced on the plan.
I don't think the gravel is the problem. The problem is the stone dust dressing on the top that may end up in the guy's front yard and down in the wetland area.
Yeah, I don't really like to see stone dust dressing. I like to see,
Exactly. Yep.
I like to see, well, it has to meet DOT standards, so it has to have a certain amount of
Oh, yeah.
category.
Can you make a gravel driveway that would meet the fire requirements?
Yes, because the requirements is for loading, not for that, the vehicle can handle 20,000 pounds per
The
axle.
truckload.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to spec it for the truckload.
So basically when they build the road, I make them fill up like a triaxle and drive down it and make sure, and confirm that it doesn't sink in or anything.
They don't do a DCP on it?
No, I haven't seen that.
Huh.
Because realistically, you could do it in the first like foot of material, but if the underlying material is still soft, you're still going to have that at some point.
Well, that's where your strength comes from, is your underlying material.
I mean, out here too, it's all gravel underneath.
Yep.
So we're just adding on top of a solid base. Oh, yeah, you're right. And then in some cases, I also have made people do like a woven geotextile that acts as a soil stabilizer.
Right.
You know what? I feel a little better about it with the recognition that it can't just be, it's got to meet the fire department has to be okay with it too. So it's not going to be some sort of roughed in gravel driveway. Otherwise that kind of defeats the purpose of specking out this hammerhead. I'm surprised that they'd be willing to approve it without pavement, to be perfectly honest with you. Because now the fire department is counting on whoever to build, a soils driveway, not a flexible pavement driveway that
Right.
their trucks won't get stuck on.
Well, that's why
So-
I ask if they use a DCP. If they use a DCP, you're going to know exactly what the truckload factors will be on that based on the material that they use. And there's, I mean.
Do you think there's a chance that the fire department that Rob is the first guy to notice that thing doesn't say paved driveway? Do you think that might be a thing?
No, because they don't require it be paved or not. They just require that it be a certain width and that it be able to have a certain truckload on it.
Yeah.
That's
In
all.
fact, that
So
was,
you can, in other words, you can meet H20 without flexible pavement.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
it was part of the TRC discussion too, in terms of surface type, if I recall, right, Mark?
I wasn't in the meeting, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, it was then.
The first, Jen, I'll be honest with you, the first I heard that this hammerhead needed a change is when you brought it to my attention. I still haven't gotten an email from anyone that it was needed.
Okay, yeah, so there was discussion on that during our TRC meeting, in terms of type of surface.
Mark, could you scroll over to show the driveway detail? Thank you.
So I do need to remove this because we just talked about this.
Right, so there'll be no stone dust on top.
No stone
Thank you.
dust, yeah. So if it's paved, it's, 2-inch binder, 1.5 top. And then we'll just continue the gravel up.
2-inch bituminous binder,
Yeah.
2 inches thick, three-quarter stone.
In the binder,
Yeah.
that's usually 3/8 to like 1/2-inch size stone that's in the binder. Top is usually a lot smaller.
Yeah. Top is usually a state spec, but your binder is best off at 2-inch with 3/4 stone. I won't go anywhere.
We do require a proctor on the material to make sure it meets the gradation that's stated here.
Okay.
Where's the stone wall? Okay, I see the stone wall. It's on the kind of the right side of the house.
Yeah, along the driveway.
Yeah, I don't know where I fall down on this material type. I feel like that's a pretty big unknown.
I think the dense grade's preferred over the asphalt because you'll still get a little bit of water trickling through there, and the Mass DOT civ requirements are pretty reasonable at controlling quality, provided that
Yeah,
they're
they are.
met.
So, but it doesn't say, it says stone dust. I get we're getting stone dust, but topping owner's choice. I don't know that there's a top course noted You know,
No.
he's got the base course and the subgrade noted, but
No stone dust. He's gonna remove that entirely, so it'll just be 14 inches of dense graded crushed stone to meeting the proctor or the bituminous. So he's gonna retain the, I mean, I imagine they're gonna keep it as dense graded and then pave it when they're ready to. Not to speculate, but I don't think stone dust is on the table here. Is that correct, Mark?
It says
No,
removed.
stone dust is off the table.
So
That's a very vague term.
Which one's a vague term? Stone.
Stone dust. That's a vague term.
yeah,
There is no definition.
Well, like I said, that one's gonna get removed.
so can we just make a condition that it either be dense graded crushed stone meeting the Mass dot material specifications M2.01.07 or bituminous?
that'd probably make me feel okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could do that. We could put that as part of the conditions.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other discussion?
No hands raised. Okay, and no hands raised, Richard.
Thank you. Okay, I will accept a motion to approve SC 690914 as proposed under the State Wetland Protection Act.
So moved, Mike Campagnon.
second, Chris Carney.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. And I'll accept the same motion under the local bylaw.
So moved, Mike Campagnon.
Second, Nate Sosha.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. And I'll accept the motion to close SE 690914.
So moved, Chris Carney.
Second, Mike Campagnon.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. And there is a 10-day appeal period from the date of the issuance of the order of conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda is SE 690916 11514 River Avenue. Proposed demolition of an existing building and construction of a new commercial building with associated stormwater structures and grading within jurisdictional wetland areas. And who is here presenting for the applicant?
Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Kevin Soley. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts with Soley Engineering. Office is located on 351 Newbury Street in Boston. So we've been before you several months now for this application. And I can actually, let me share my screen so I can just pull up a slideshow.
Is this the friendlies? Just to kind of get me.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is the redevelopment of the friendly site on Fall River Avenue. As the commission, I'm sure certainly remembers, so we've kind of come before you a few times, and our application has been delayed due to the processing and the coordination between our applicant and our property owner and an abutter. So, so the site is located to the south of Fall River Avenue. Here, let me just orient everyone. In this location here, it's the former Friendlies. And if you may recall, a portion of the Friendlies area that's currently developed and utilized includes a portion of a piece of property on an abutting parcel which was covered under an access easement. And that actually includes both access and utility easements. So the commission may remember our application was delayed as our applicant, the new property owner, the Friendlies, was coordinating with the abutter regarding resecuring those access easement rights. As of late Friday, an agreement has been reached with that property owner, and that property owner has provided notification to land use staff that the agreement has been met. And in addition to that, since we are essentially what's going to take place is a portion of this property is going to be conveyed to our applicant, so that that'll now become part of our property, and then we'll grant some additional access easements benefiting that property in the future. But in order for us to really effectuate that, we had to get his additional signature on the NOI, and we did submit that revised NOI to Jennifer this afternoon. But we were very excited to get that in before the meeting tonight. So we think that at this point, we've gone through our proposed application a number of times, and I think this securing the rights related with this access easement was really that last item that was still outstanding. And now that we've done that, we'd like to, see if the commission has any other questions. We can certainly, rehash some of our proposal, but essentially we're looking to demolish the existing Friendlies building and propose to construct a fast food restaurant in this location. We've responded and provided some revised plans along the way to provide additional area for snow storage and things like that. But essentially, overall, our project is a considerable improvement from what's out there today. We're reducing the overall impervious surface. We're reducing rates of runoff from the property, and we're providing substantial water quality improvements that don't exist on the property today. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have, and we can certainly talk through if there are any questions on the easement or anything else related to the coordination with the abutting property owner.
This is Mike. A couple of quick questions. As I recall, there was a question about that outlet, the pipe that drained into the resource area over there. I think that was addressed. And can you just kind of give us the skinny on where the snow removal ended up?
Sure. Yes, just regarding the drainage, yeah, we did go and look at that, and we are obviously maintaining that flow, and we are confident with what we're proposing there. Regarding the snow storage areas, we had identified on our site plan an area both here and in the parking lot in this location here, and identified that on the revised site plan, which was submitted, I think, on January 11th. So we did try to address that in response to comments raised as part of the hearing process.
And didn't we also ask about the dumpster? Wasn't there some? And we decided this is the only place for the dumpster. Is that what we're getting to?
Yeah, I think what we ended up doing was, in existing conditions, the dumpster is actually right here, which is actually closer to the resources than where we have it. We've located it, and we've proposed to move that over into this corner. So we actually have a little bit more separation. We're also providing this to be on a concrete pad with a board-on-board dumpster enclosure. And just from an operation standpoint, this is really the most optimal place to locate it, so it can be adequately emptied and minimize any kind of disruption with patrons at the site.
Where does the runoff from can you show us the grading plan to see how that does the runoff from the dumpster go through the stormwater system?
It does, yes. So all of the site is now drained towards our series of catch basins. And then it is routed through a water quality unit here prior to connection to the existing catch basin in this location. So yes, so that stormwater runoff will drain actually to this catch basin here. It's then, the catch basins have 2-foot sumps. They're routed through before they get that primary treatment from that hydrodynamic separator that swirl concentration unit to remove those suspended solids in accordance with mass stormwater requirements.
Any other questions from the commission? Any other comments? Do we have any hands raised, Jennifer?
No hands raised.
Okay, yeah, I think we've pretty much thoroughly investigated this and reviewed it. With that being said, I'll accept a motion to approve SE 69091611151 Fall River Avenue.
Richard, just real quick. So Kevin,
Does
I'm sorry, does the current site plan that we have show the two different lots? Like, does it call out lot 81 and lot 82?
So, thanks, Jennifer. I'm glad we definitely need to chat through this. So yeah, so the current site plan, and I think, did that actually pop up? I'm not sure. I brought that site plan up, but the current site plan does show the limit of our property, and then it shows the additional area, which is covered under an access easement area. So I guess we would, since we will be, since the agreement that was reached with the neighbor will likely be an adjustment of the limit of that property line. I guess we would need to have a condition of approval that, an A&R plan be filed, which formally conveys that land to be a part of our parcel. And I think that's something that, Jennifer and I had spoken about that today. If that's something the commission feels comfortable with, because you're correct, that our current plan does show that as a separate lot, as part of that agreement that was reached. I think we will be expanding our property to include that. So I think the commission would, we'd request the commission just include that as part of their conditions to provide revised site plans which reflect that new information.
I guess I was actually saying the opposite, because I'm going to be conditioning this within 21 days. So I just need to make sure it has lot 81 on that plan and shows kind of the project limit.
I saw one of the plans that did have that on there.
Yeah, our plans certainly show.
Yeah.
Yeah, they certainly show the limits of the property line. They show the activity proposed on the adjacent piece, and that carries throughout. So I think it does depict the work.
But it doesn't depict the fact that there are two property page numbers.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
it
so
is-
I think at
Lot.
issue here is we need to make sure that this is recorded in the chain of title for the parcel
Right.
that gets broken off after.
Mhm.
And I think that would happen if it was recorded under both parcels, because at this
Right.
point, you've got both signatures. The application should reference both parcels. The application should reference both parcels so that when it gets recorded in the chain of title on both of them.
Right.
Okay. But so does the plan also, like on the title page, does the plan reference both lots? That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, let's go to the, like your top sheet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
You want it?
Yeah, I believe it actually does reference both parcels because it does include the adjoining property. So we did include a reference to that from a project site information standpoint.
Then that should actually not say, the other one shouldn't say adjoining because it's now subject to the NOI as well. I think that's a minor edit that could meet your needs, right, Jen?
Could you zoom in on that for me, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and our initial NOI did reference both parcels. We did actually add the other owner's information to that today and provided that additional signature on the signature page. So I think we have addressed that.
Then can we scratch adjoining? Just scratch the word out of it?
Yeah.
That whole thing, just take that whole thing out and then they're all just in a column, like subject property. Number 1 and number 2.
Right, and then just
that right there.
with a new revision date. Um,
So they're known as by 8-1 and 8-2. 8-1 and 8-2.
What are they? Lot 782 and lot 781?
Same map, and just lots 81 and 82. Yep.
I'm not seeing a different deed number. Book and page.
We can add
Well-
the deed number for this parcel, for that
Yeah.
parcel ID. We
Because
can do that.
that'll be your book and page.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll add, we'll go ahead and add all this information, the deed and the acreage, so that these are consistent with both properties listed.
Correct.
And then we'll
Jen, do
change
you
them.
record the order or who records the order at this point?
I write it and then they record it, but so the order references that book and page for the deed.
And then they return the receipt to us, correct?
Yep.
That way we know when it's been recorded.
Right, because I have to have that before I can even do a site visit.
Correct. Or issue an order of conditions.
Well, I'm saying once they've given us proof of recording the orders of conditions, I need that proof before I'll do a site visit. Okay,
You know,
So-
I'm looking at the Google Earth over there. There's that weird pool out behind that hotel, huh?
so I'm sorry, Richard, I interrupted your
That's okay.
request to make a motion.
No,
just to
that's
address-
fine. That's fine. Are we all set?
I'm good.
Good.
No
Okay.
further comment.
So I will accept a motion to approve under the State Wetlands, excuse me, Protection Act, SE 6909161151 Fall River Avenue, as proposed and as presented.
Don't we
So-
have a revision?
With a revised plan.
Oh, well, so they're
Yeah, pending a revised plan.
going to review the, all right, as revised.
So moved. Mike Campagnon.
Second, Chris Carney.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
Aye, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. And I'll accept the same motion under the Seekonk Town bylaw.
So
Go ahead,
moved, Nate
Chris.
Sosha.
Go ahead, Chris.
Second, Chris Carney.
Yeah, I didn't. All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
Aye, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. And I will accept a motion to close SE 6909161151 Fall River Avenue.
So moved. Mike Campagnon.
Do I have a second?
Nate Sosha.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
Aye, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. And there is a 10-day appeal period from the date of the issuance of the order of conditions. Thank you
So
very
now do we get to know what it is?
I know what it is. I already said that.
I think you'll you love that chicken.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for time and consideration as we've been waiting for that last agreement to be reached. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is SC 091865 Wyndhamshire Drive. And this is a continuance from January 11th. We had some questions as to whether the applicant had explored any and all alternates that would be applicable to this site, or at least to see whether there are any applicable ones. And we received something today, a review of that, a document from the applicants. I believe it was from the engineer.
Yes.
Okay. I have not had time to review that and take a look at it in depth, to go through it, to cross it over and, sort of reference to the applicable rules and regulations. I take some suggestion on how you want to proceed on this.
Yeah, I got it so late. There was no way I could review it. I was in a class till after 5.
We received it, what, about 4 o'clock this afternoon, Jennifer?
The version with the attachments, yeah.
Could I speak up at this point?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I can gladly walk you through it. It's really not all that complicated. It's pretty straightforward, and a lot of it is what we had discussed at the previous meeting. In all the attachments and all the documents are in the record from the previous filing from 2019. So basically, the alternatives boiled down to, and if you don't mind, could I share my screen?
Yep, you should have the ability to.
Okay. Let me see. Let's go here. Let's see. All right. Can everybody see the plan now?
No,
No,
it's like one line.
One skinny little line down the middle
one
now.
skinny vertical line.
Oh, boy. Okay. Let me, I don't know.
Oh, there it is.
You have it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Stop playing with it.
Well, it's the dual monitor that throws me off. I don't know which screen to put it on. Okay, so basically what the analysis says is, and this is something that we looked at with DEP, again, as part of the process for the request for the superseding order. There were a couple of alternatives that were looked at back in 2019. And the primary one was that the crossing where we previously had it in this location here could be moved further to the south, and that would have saved, I want to say the number was I believe it was 200 square feet of alteration, 200 square feet less of alteration by putting the crossing along the southern property boundary of Lot 2. That was the alternative that we proposed in terms of the crossing. And then the other alternative that was reviewed at that time was whether or not we had enough room on Lot 1 to construct the dwelling on the west side of the bordering vegetated wetland in this location here. What we did was we got there was a zoning determination that we received from Neil Abelson, the CCOG zoning enforcement officer, that because DEP was not clear as to the, what property lines were considered sidelines and what property lines were considered rear lines. We did get a determination at that point that this particular property line along the north side was in fact a rear property line, and we would need to meet the setback as such, which only left 16 feet between your front setback line and your rear setback line, which is certainly not large enough to construct a dwelling, typical dwelling in. So this area was kind of ruled out right away. And that's contained in my analysis that I submitted today. So basically, the crossing that we have proposed that's currently before you in this particular location is actually has less impact than the alternative that we analyzed back in 2019, which was along the southern property boundary. There's 50 square feet less of alteration. As you can see, the original location was in this area. We analyzed this location, which would have been a logical spot to take a look at due to certainly along the southern boundary, the width of the wetland really narrows down. And then if you look at the wetland in general, the only other logical spot to take a look at would be at the narrowest point between the west side and east side of the wetland, which is where we have the crossing now. So really, there is no other alternative in terms of crossing the wetland on the properties that are owned by the applicant. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of what the analysis says. I did submit all the documentation to support that. It is something I believe that you may have had in the file from the previous filing in 2019 on this project. It's just been expanded a little bit to include the new location of the driveway. So, it doesn't, in my opinion, it's pretty straightforward. There's certainly not a lot of alternatives on site to place a crossing to access the usable uplands on the east side of the property. So, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you might have it.
Jeff, thank you very much for,
Sure.
Explaining to us, and precisely what you had said is, yes, this is your opinion. I myself, I would like to take a look at some other aspects of alternate proposals and make my own opinion. I can't speak for the rest of the commission, but I think with all due respect to the commission, I think they should all have that opportunity to make their own opinion of whether this is the only solution to crossing the wetland.
That's fair. It just,
I would,
given the site constraints, we are really restricted on this property. I guess that's my whole point.
I think from my perspective, I know that there's what appears to be, there's some history here, and I'm not really comfortable without sitting down and reading the words that are in that document before I would put a vote to it. That's all I would say, because I know that if this tracks in the same direction, that there's going to be contention on this particular project, and I would prefer to be able to sit down with the document and read it in earnest and decide what I think of it.
Yeah, I want to make a deliberate, careful decision. Exactly.
Fair enough.
Any other comments?
I think you had said when we spoke with you earlier that someone asked about a bridge across the wetland area, and I think you thought that would be cost prohibitive or not a
That's correct.
consideration for the owner.
That's correct. Yeah, I looked into the pricing on bridges, and I spoke to a few clients of mine that have built them in the past, and the cost for the bridge, well, specifically the bridge at Tall Pines, which is in Seekonk on Brook Street, north end of town, that particular bridge, which was constructed about 7 years ago, ended up costing about $5,000 per linear foot of the bridge. Whereas what you're looking at on this particular plan with the fill and retaining walls, you're somewhere closer to, I believe, about $250 per linear foot to $300 per linear foot, in that range, probably closer to the 250. So, you know, there's a substantial difference in price when you get into doing bridges. And then with that particular bridge, the clearance above the ground level below the bridge, in that case it was a stream, which was, you know, was a 6-foot clearance. To build something similar here, I don't know if it makes sense, because I don't know what would happen to the wetland below that bridge. You know, would the wetland be adversely impacted by the amount of sunlight that it would receive? I would have to imagine that it would be. You know,
Well, with the filling, it's going to receive 0.
well, with the filling, it's going to be replicated and put in a different location. So that you know, that's the whole point. Whereas if you have a wetland under a bridge, then, you know, technically, you know, it wouldn't be considered altered, even though.
Did you provide all of that information in the document you submitted today?
No, I analyzed the crossing locations and the, you know, possible location of the dwelling.
So you
I
put
don't
words
believe-
to the argument that you made the last time. Is there a new substantive argument in the document that you sent today that's different than the argument that you made, you know, a month ago? Or are we recycling the same idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're basically recycling the same idea, because the alternatives with this particular site are to cross the wetland in the fashion that we're showing here, or not to cross the wetland at all. You know, to build a bridge of that would have any significant impact. You know, you're talking about spending, by today's pricing, you're probably looking at $7,500 per linear foot of
Well,
bridge.
and that's the kind of information we need for the record.
Well, I can certainly amend the alternative analysis then to include a portion on bridges. I certainly have no problem doing that, and I can get you a revised copy well in advance of the next meeting.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
And I think if you have any other alternatives that, you know, we've mentioned 2, if you can do the same for both of those 2 that we've mentioned, that we're asking you to do an analysis on, I wouldn't want you to come back at the next meeting and we say, well, what about the other alternative?
But when you mentioned 2, you're talking about the bridge, and what would the second one be?
Second one was down at the lower portion of that southern property line.
He's already done the math on that.
Yeah,
Richard.
we've done that, but I can.
Is that in the record
Yes.
on this?
But I will make it. I will include everything in one concise alternative analysis for the whole entire site,
Okay.
which would include that. But that is referenced in the one that you have today, in the one that you received today.
So to your conversation before, your statement before about this corner, that would be the northwest corner, the upper northwest corner.
Yes, in this location.
So that is not that is non-usable land. You can't develop that, correct?
Correct.
Had you consider using that as part of replication?
We are using that as part of the replication.
Well, you've got a small area. I'm saying more of that area.
More of
Greater
this.
than a 1-to-1.
Yeah, you got.
Yeah, you're
at
we
can-
There.
We can certainly
1-to-1.
expand that to get 2-to-1 replication. We can make this whole area wetland. I know at the previous meeting back in 2000, well, the previous filing, I should say, back in 2019, there was a concern of the abutter to the west about the encroachment of the buffer zone onto their property. Even though the wetland does go through the back of their property, it would create more of a buffer zone issue on their property. But, you know, by all means, I mean, we can expand the size of the replication area to get, if the commission prefers a 2-to-1 replication, we can accomplish that on site.
You know,
All right. Go ahead, Richard.
It's through the whole conversation, you've always referred back to I shouldn't say you always, but primarily you have referred to the wetlands regulations. One of our concerns as the commit from the commission, and one of our tasks that we are responsible for is also to think about potable drinking water in town. 100% of the water that the individuals in Seekonk drink comes from aquifer. And so we have a concern, every project we look at is what are we getting back into the soil so we can recharge our aquifer? Even though we're not in the aquifer district, there could be individuals with private wells that live nearby that we have to keep our concerns with. And so that's why we're really looking at replications to increase these areas, because we don't know. I don't have any data. I don't believe there's any in the documents to show how the dynamics of this wetland area is going to react to being severed with just one channel in between. I can't say that it's not, or it is not going to impact the aquifer system. I don't know. We don't have any soil samples. We don't have any data to talk to that. So at best, we look to have an increase in replication area to help compensate for that.
Yeah, and again, we're certainly not opposed to increasing the size of the replication area to provide additional replication above and beyond what would be required by the Wetlands Protection Act. We were trying to keep it as small as possible. Different commissions have different views when it comes to replication. If it's your preference to have a 2-to-1 replication area, by all means, that's something we could provide.
And I have a little bit of concern. So like you said, in Tall Pines, we did a culvert and we still had bank inside the culvert. Here, it looks like we have a small, I can't even see it on the plan. I think it's a RCP going across.
It's an arched pipe.
Oh, it's the arch. So you went with the arch pipe.
Yeah, and it's going to be embedded, slightly embedded. So you're going to have some natural substrate, in the bottom of it, for any, small animals, critters, whatever that want to,
Yep.
move back
It's a
and forth.
42-inch.
Yes.
Did you do any analysis on the flow characteristics? Because you are subdividing that wetland, so to speak.
Yes. There is a culvert sizing analysis that was
Did you
submitted.
do any analysis of transference from one side to the other?
Of stormwater?
Yes.
Yes, there's a culvert analysis that was submitted as part of the notice of intent filing. That's on record.
Well, I don't mean so much of going through the culvert. I mean of what one does to the other. Is there any kind of analysis that you have done to see by doing this, does it affect the southern portion or does it affect the northern portion?
No, I mean, we
All right. Just for the record.
Yeah, and again, I mean, the wetland that we're talking about, as you can see here, this is the head of a much larger wetland that stretches much further to the north.
I know it's a very large wetland area.
It is a very large wetland area. So this portion that's going to be left to the south of the crossing is relatively small in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it would still receive a large amount of water. It's not like it's being cut off from a larger wetland and has a potential to dry up.
That's what I'm saying. So even if you doubled your replication area, if for some reason you've changed the dynamics of this and it changes and it goes away in time.
The wetland to the south?
The one to the south, yes. That small isolated area.
There's no chance of that happening.
I'm sorry?
There's literally no chance of that happening, given the size of the watershed that this area that flows into this wetland, and given the topography within the wetland. You know, there's some low areas, there's some higher areas where
Yep.
it mounds up. So
Yep.
the wetland is really, really flat compared to the abutting areas, specifically to the east, which is, you know, pretty steep slope. In that analysis I did, I looked at the entire contributing watershed to this particular wetland, and it is substantial.
So is it your opinion then that it flows from north to south? Is that what you're saying?
No, it flows from south to north.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no question about it. But the watershed area that contributes to the wetland area to the south is substantial. And that's the area I analyzed, because that's what's going to be flowing through the culvert. And that's all contained in the documentation that was submitted with the notice of intent.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
All right, this is Mike again. So I think I share Richard's concern for this area that gets cut off. Granted, there's a 42-inch pipe, and that probably meets the sizing requirements and all that stuff, but it definitely is going to change the hydrology around the area, because at the moment it's got, you know, let's call it a 60 or 70 feet to get across, and then you're going to constrict that down to 42 inches. Yeah, that's going to do something to it, and I continue to have concerns. The other thing that as a question is, if lot 2 were developed before lot 1, could it still fit on the left-hand side of the resource area?
We didn't, I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked into that.
That's, I think, my, you know, I see where you're going with this, but I don't think that I have changed my mind about this is the same project that came last time. And I don't know that anything that's come across in the last month of Sundays of talking about this has changed the substance of the design. It's still something that looks like one would fit before you cut it. And to I understand your point, and I think that someone else is probably going to have to decide what that part of it is. In terms of, you know, can you forego a lot that doesn't require a crossing to make 2 that do? And I feel like, for me, that's where part of my hang up is. I have concerns that isolating this small piece of resource area will degrade it, and that you don't have enough area to make a rehabilitation of that whole thing if it dies out. And you know, this is new construction, so there's the variance issue. I'd be interested to see if the document set sways me one way or the other. I guess we should probably consider a continuance, or do we, what's our next moves here? Does anybody else have any comments? Because I think that's all
Can I ask a quick question in terms of the alternatives analysis that Richard kind of touched on in terms of that crossing? With the septic, basically effluent is going to be pumped across that crossing, right?
Yes.
To the leaching field. So have test pits ever been done over where the house is proposed?
There's nothing on file at the Board of Health.
Okay.
I mean, there are some pipes out in the area, but there's no record of any testing that was performed out there.
You didn't look at each having its own septic system as an alternative to the pipe across?
Well, we haven't had the ability to get across the wetland to do any testing.
Can you get access through an abutting property?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we have not explored that.
I
So, I
think
mean,
the commission has had problems and required some pretty I think the last time this came up, there was talk of directional drilling to not impact the resource areas and double sleeving the sewer pipes.
Yeah, you're talking about the one on
They're not
Chestnut.
even, they don't even have a casing on them.
Right? How does the Board of Health view? I mean, they have a 50-foot setback. Does that not count for pipes and structures?
No. No, I mean, there's a
Oh, no.
setback to there's a setback to a septic tank, there's a setback to a pump chamber, there's a setback to a leaching field.
Right. Not
But not the pipe.
not a pressurized pipe.
Oh, there you go.
It's not even-
I think that was an oversight.
It's not a pressurized pipe that would be crossing the wetland. That's gravity until you get to the pump chamber, which would be located on the west side of the wetland.
So you've got a gravity pipe with some clean outs along. What's the pipe run from tank to tank?
I'm not sure if I have it listed here.
That's a gravity pipe?
Correct. I can't find it, but I mean, I would anticipate you're looking
4-inch.
at about 140 feet.
What's the
That's a
invert
4-inch.
out? What's the outlet in the invert outlet from the top of the pipe and the invert to the tank? In other words, if the pipe backed up, it would go out. If the pipe plugged up, it would back up to the tank and it would come out at the top. Then where would it go? Down the hill and into the resource area.
If the pipe backed up,
So
So
if the
if you
pipe,
had it-
if the pipe plugged somewhere halfway through that, and you just kept pushing water out at 110 or whatever that is up at the top of the house,
Yeah.
right? And you just kept, and the guy just kept flushing the toilet because it didn't back up, then it would come out at the tank. That's where it would break out.
conceivably, yes, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is the same issue with any septic system in the town.
Well, most
Right?
of them
Any
don't have
septic
pipes
system
that are
adjacent to a
going.
wetland.
You're right. That's true. However, those are on separate lots. They're on Title V. I don't believe the pipe is covered by Title V. It's a big
That
difference.
and the structure would be farther than 50 feet away from this looks like it's within, or what is that tank, like at 50 feet, like 50.0? Is that what I'm saying?
The septic tank?
Yeah, the
Yes.
top one.
No,
Yes.
it's just outside the 25, right?
No, it's
No.
outside the 50.
Just
Okay.
outside the 50.
Yeah, it's outside the 50. I can see that. It's right on the edge of the 50. So both lots are going to share the same tank?
That would be, well, without having a design on lot 2, I'm not sure, but I believe there's the potential for that. Or there could be 2 separate tanks.
See, this just goes back to also my concern about this being a phased project. If this manages to get approved, then it's going to come back and there's going to be this whole slew of revisions that are going to make a whole lot of sense. And they're going to feel like, oh, we should totally, what's another couple square feet, or what's another distance to the setback, or, at this point we're committed, This is how phased projects scope creep on
Yep.
you. And I keep going back. There's a place for a house out here on lot 2 that you could put it in tomorrow. if you
We're
want.
dealing with the notice of intent filed on lot 1. That's
Agreed,
what's
but I
before
think
them.
that we have the right to look at phased projects. And this started off as one parcel less than a year, 2 years ago, and it got taken into 2 with the same owner. And I feel like I'm within my rights to look at this as a phased project.
And I think to further your point, you can't have this house occupied until you have a septic system built on lot 2, right? So we have to look at lot 2 because that's where their septic components are going to be.
You know, your NOI has to have the deed of the for this NOI, you're referencing 2 deeds, one for lot 1 and one for lot 2.
It's
To
one
me-
deed at the moment. Lot 1 or lot 2 have not been deeded out separately.
The A&R has been approved,
Yes,
but has it been recorded?
yes,
Does that, you don't have to write the deed when you record the A&R?
no. A&R plan is just an instrument in which the lots could be deeded out by.
Gotcha.
And that's
I
a
think our bylaw allows us to look at phased projects. I think there's language in the bylaw about that. Am I correct? Am I dreaming that, Jen?
I'd have to look, Mike. But I
know.
think, outside of that, you're looking at how does this work with Board of Health with a shared septic system? I know they have a huge checklist that you have to go through in order to have shared septic, and usually that's on a separate lot. It's not on.
But that's not what's going to happen here. What's going to happen here?
It is
we're
a
gonna
separate lot.
We're going to
No,
we're
a
going to get
separate
through
lot
this.
from lot 1, lot 2.
But this is what'll happen is it won't come back as I'm going to tie in and I'm going to put another one. It's going to be, I'm going to dig the whole thing up again and I'm going to put a second pipe on the middle of it with a second septic tank and another opportunity for it to make a mess. And then oh, well, now I need, X more square feet of leaching area down here. And if it wasn't broken into, then you could make the argument that no, okay, there isn't a second lot here, but he broke it in 2 for the sake of a second lot. And we've
That's
got an
easy enough
NOI
to-
filing.
What was the septic system designed to? The leach field?
Each field is for the single
How many
family,
bedroom?
5-bedroom, single family dwelling,
How many?
5 bedrooms.
5-bedroom, single lot.
Yes,
So you would have to put another septic system in, another leaching field.
it would
But
have to
there's
be,
nothing-
the leaching field would
nobody's-
have to be expanded. Would it make more sense to file a notice of intent for both lots at the same time? Even though the applicant is certainly not going
The
to,
applicant can be the current property owner, it doesn't have to be a potential.
I don't think that the details of how you filed it are going to, I think if you filed it twice, then it would open us up to definitely consider it as 2 potential house lots. I mean, the other thing is that you might find after you get the driveway in that he can get back there, he can perk it, and then the whole thing might fit on the other side of the road and all we have is utilities crossing through the driveway. That's a potential. Is there any chance that someone could get out there with a hand auger and see what kind of material is going on over there? I think
no,
that
you
might-
wouldn't,
No. You're
you
gonna
wouldn't be
get,
able to make the determination that you need to make.
no, you're gonna get
Well,
down to the water table.
I think we all have enough experience with Title V soil evaluations to, if you could get even if you could get down that far, you'd know whether it was gonna perk or not.
I think the
Like-
problem there, Mike, would be getting down that far though.
Yeah, that's bony.
Yes, it's very rocky, stone.
That's- I've walked that lot. That's a very bony lot.
Then what's the perk rate down in where he's got the septic system?
Pretty much engineered.
Yeah, all right. I'm not showing the profile here. Let me see.
It's a pretty much engineered system if I'm not,
Oh, yes. Yeah, I mean, this system has been engineered to be compliant with Title V. It's just that I'm not showing
Right.
all that information on the notice of intent plan.
I'm not saying that it's been engineered. I'm saying it's an engineered system.
I mean, that's a lot of chambers, right? That's probably not 2 minutes an inch.
No,
You
I
know?
want to say it's somewhere between 10 and 15 in that range.
I hate shared systems because you can kill a septic system in a matter of months by putting the wrong materials down the drain.
But, to Jeff's
That's
point,
another
it's not
issue.
shown
That's
as a
another
shared
issue. That's
system.
just my,
It's, this is all because we don't know what the next phase is. We're all making guesses about
I
what,
get that.
which is back to my point.
So the
Right.
point that I was
Then-
trying to make is I don't know if we want to look at perking the other side as part of the alternatives analysis, if there's access through one of the other lots.
I could have sworn that those lots were perked.
There are perk pipes out there.
Well, in the original filing, there should be some documentation.
But you couldn't find that at Board of Health, right, Joe?
There's no record whatsoever at the Board of Health, believe me. It would make my life a lot simpler if there were something on that side where I could.
Did you take a look at the filing that we had? Because usually that has all of the perk rates, everything on there.
Yes, I've gone through that file extensively.
And there's none in our file either?
No.
Probably not good news. They probably didn't pass, which is why this lot sat there forever and ever, because it's got a giant wetland right in the middle of it, and the soils aren't great.
Well, the odd thing about this particular lot, if this would have been developed right away when the subdivision was done, under that version of Title V, then they could have crossed this wetland. The crossing regulations at that point
Were
were,
different.
as long as you were under the 5,000 square feet, you really didn't need a reason. You were allowed to go up to the 5,000 square feet. Now it's, they've since revised that. I want to say it was mid-2000s when that revision was made to the act, where, that you evaluate alternatives and different methods of development. So,
Yeah, it was right around 2000.
yeah.
Well, are we talked out, or what?
Well, yeah,
What-
we need some more granular information on the alternatives, some kind of documentation. I appreciate everything you went through and you gave it to us with all due respect. However, we have to have documentation that we have looked at the alternatives and that the applicant has provided us with enough information on the alternatives for the commission to feel comfortable in saying, okay, you've done due diligence.
Certainly. And I think you'll find, the alternative analysis I submitted today is, it does cover a lot of what we're talking about, but I will expand it based on the conversation tonight to include the bridge analysis.
And I'm going to suggest to the commission, once you start reviewing the document, please forward any of your concerns or comments or questions or whatever you have to Jennifer, and she can submit those to Jeff. And pass those on to Jeff.
So Jeff, if we're looking at continuing to March 8th, they probably needed a couple weeks before, like our normal deadline for new submittals, so that gives the commission time to review it.
Yeah, and I apologize for the late, me being late getting you this analysis today. Certainly that won't be the case. I'll be able to get on this right away and hopefully have something back to you within a week, which would give you plenty of time to review it before the next meeting.
Okay, so then I will accept a motion to continue. Has Jeff filed any continuance papers? Do we have any?
No, and since this is remote, we'll just
All right.
need that as soon as you can
You
turn it over.
can take care of that with him?
Yep.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to continue SE 69 091865 Windhamshire Drive to March 8th at some time after 7 PM. That's
So moved.
March 8th,
Jeff?
2020.
Jeff,
Yes.
that's agreeable to you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So moved, Chris Carney.
Second, Nate Sosha.
No, you got it.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Hi, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is SE 690917 655 Reed Street, map 26, lot 184, proposed construction of a single-family dwelling and associated grading within the jurisdictional wetlands. And I will be reading into the record.
You don't need to read this one in because we opened
Oh,
it
no,
last.
that's continued. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Getting ahead of myself. Trying to move this along.
No worries.
Good evening.
So we
Chris
talked about
Andrews.
this once already, haven't we?
Yes.
Nice.
Good evening, Chris Andrews with Insight Engineering Services, 1539 Fall River Ave in Seekonk, Massachusetts, here for 655 Reed Street. Basically, the issues that were on the plans previously were outdated.
We're having difficult hearing you, Chris.
Sorry,
I
can you
am
hear me?
anyway.
Hold on one second. Let me see if I can change some settings. Give me 1 second. Can you hear me a little better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So at the previous meeting, we had a discussion about the existing conditions were based on the previous NOI that had been submitted. And since somebody had gone in and cleared out most of the lot, piled up some logs, which are shown now here. So we removed all notation of any clearing that was supposed to happen that's already happened, and brought the plan up to existing conditions as is today. We're removed the sheds that were shown previously and are now showing the existing straw wattle that's out on site, and where it's supposed to be, where we're proposing it to be. We also in the process moved the well a little bit off from the center, and we are showing the existing log piles. Any questions?
Mike, did you take a look at Google Earth to see if there was any disturbance of canopy?
Well, you can, there's an image on, it's funny, I'm looking at it right now, from 2018 that has basically the whole place is scarified.
Yeah, that was part of the previous NOI, which we ended up closing the COC for it last week, or last meeting.
Oh, that was part of that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So did we address all of the concerns we had, Jennifer?
Yes, yep. The revised plan captures everything that was brought up at the last meeting.
Okay. All right, then, we can close this one out. I'll accept a motion to approve SE 690917 655 Reed Street for the Wetlands Protection Act.
So moved, Mike Campagnon.
Second, Chris Carney.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Hi, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. And I'll accept the same motion under the local bylaw.
So moved, Mike Campagnon.
Second, anyone?
Second, Nate Sosha.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Hi, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
I, Richard Wallace, and I'll accept a motion to close SE 690-917, 655 Reed Street.
So moved. Mike Campagnon.
Second, Chris Carney.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
Aye, Nate Sosha.
I, Richard Wallace, and there is a 10-day appeal period from the date of the issuance of the order of conditions. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, guys.
You too. Okay, next on the agenda is SE 690919, 1903 Fall River Avenue. This is proposed rise and of an existing building and construction of a new parking lot for a proposed retail marijuana dispensary, as well as associated stormwater structure and grading within jurisdictional wetland areas. And let me get the sheet.
And then, so Tom, you have the ability to share your screen if you want to share the plans.
Great, thank you. Yep.
Okay, I just have to read this into the record. Conservation Commission, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Seekonk Wetland Protection Bylaws, will open a public hearing via remote session on Monday, February 8th, 2021, after 7 p.m. on a notice of intent by Metro Harvest LLC for 1903 Fall River Avenue, map 1, lot 104, for the proposed raising of a existing building and construction of a new parking lot for the proposed retail marijuana dispensary, as well as associated stormwater structures and grading within the jurisdictional wetland area. And who is here representing the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Tom Principe with Principe Engineering Company.
Good evening.
Good evening. So yeah, if I could start with the board members, good evening again. Tom Principe, Principe Engineering Company, registered professional engineer here in the state of Massachusetts, as well as the state of Rhode Island. Again, on behalf of the applicant, Metro Harvest LLC. First, again, just starting with the location of the actual site plan itself, located at 1903 Fall River Avenue. It's adjacent to the brand new FedEx building that was recently constructed. I'll get to that in a second. The existing parcel, again, scrolling through some of my aerial photographs, you can see it is a redevelopment project. There's two existing buildings on the property with existing asphalt pavement. It is Cabral's Radiator and Body Works and Brown's Transmissions. So it is an active building itself and company. There is an existing septic system that is on the property here at the front right corner. It is serviced by a private drinking water well in the back right corner itself. My client indicated that there was a Title V inspection on the existing leach field that we are not proposing to upgrade. It should be suitable for the proposed use, which is a retail marijuana facility under a special use permit, which we do have a meeting tomorrow, I believe, at planning. And then I believe we're on the agenda for March for zoning. Is that right, Kim? The jurisdiction of the wetlands adjacent to the property, we were working with actually Crossman Engineering was the previous owner of engineer of record that did the design work for the FedEx building. As you can see with the existing conditions plan here, we do have wetlands that was already delineated under the prior application next door. And again, it does encompass pretty much the entire perimeter of the existing parcel itself. The topography of this lot is fairly flat. We have contour 17 in the front and contour 17 in the back. There's very little grade change here. So again, when we talk about kind of regrading and redeveloping the site, there really isn't much earthwork to be proposed. which again, I'll go into the proposal and go over some of the utilities and what the applicant is proposing here. Again, there is no stormwater mitigation on the site currently. We are proposing, we did a full hydraulic analysis and stormwater evaluation for not only the stormwater quality, but also for the stormwater quantity. We are going to collect a lot of the roof runoff into a bioretention area, which will also not only mitigate our stormwater volume, but also give us our stormwater quality and recharge, as well as providing some sort of landscape features and aesthetics, the actual property. We are going to also propose some landscaping just to kind of for symmetry purposes on either side of the proposed entrance. The parking itself, you can see there's substantial amount of parking here. When we looked at this project and given the applicant's history, they do produce, a lot of parking, and the requirement for the town is only 15 parking spaces here. But again, in talking to the client, we don't feel that 15 parking spaces would actually be conducive to, the type of business and the nature of the business and what he actually does in other locations. So this is the reason why we had the additional parking spaces outlined here. And again, giving the stormwater analysis, when we went through this, not only are we collecting the stormwater from the existing roof area that is untreated currently, we are proposing porous asphalt that provides, as you know, recharge and stormwater quality for the site itself. If, gravel, there's different sides of the argument to gravel and porous pavement. But again, given the site and the close proximity to the wetland edge around the entire perimeter of the property, we thought that the porous asphalt would achieve both stormwater quality and recharge characteristics of the project itself. Again, we're going to be proposing just indigenous plantings around the perimeter. Again, as I said previously, there is very minimal grading on the site, being so flat. I think I have one proposed contour, 17, that kind of cuts through just to kind of fine tune some of the contours and the elevations itself. We have proposed handicap ramps over at a sidewalk. The existing building, Cabral's Radiator and Body Works, this is where obviously this building is going to remain. The client did have an architect draw up an architectural rendering, but he is not proposing to make any major alterations to the exterior of this building. So generally speaking, there shouldn't be any proposed earthwork that is proposed around the existing building. The only building that is being raised and coming down is this building over here on the front left corner. Obviously, we're proposing some parking here. Loading zone, a 24 by 45 foot loading zone, is located in the back right corner for some deliveries. We have a proposed dumpster location in this location, and some areas of snow removal located in these hatched areas down in the back and also in the front itself. And then the erosion controls, we're proposing hay bales and silt fence along the entire perimeter naturally. Just thought it was a more permanent solution. We do use straw wattles itself. So again, we're open to, doing different means of erosion controls itself. I think I'd like to open it up to the board members. I can answer any questions that they might have. We do have the architectural plans I have in my file. I don't know if you guys were interested in taking a peek at those as well. There was a traffic analysis that was done by another firm that the client hired that was submitted, I believe, for the record. I think that's more for planning and zoning purposes, but just wanted to indicate to the board members on what kind of information we have and what kind of research we did in developing this project.
I'd like to get a copy of this sheet that I can read more thoroughly as a file or paper. it's just too small for me to see it on my screen now.
Okay, so you want a hard copy plan set?
It would be great. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd really like to dig into some of these because they're using a lot of the stuff I've been studying recently too.
Okay, and then just to note for the commission before you guys start with question and answer. So because it's going to planning and the applicant wanted to get a kind of a head start on the process with both boards, they've already decided to start their peer review process with both planning and conservation for the stormwater analysis. So that's already underway. We don't have comments yet, but it's underway.
We're piggybacking on, which engineering firm is doing the review?
Remember? Let me see, because we've got so many of them going right now.
Right. Have they been specifically tasked with oversight relative to the concerns of the commission when it comes to stormwater?
Yes.
Or is it just, so they know, in other words, they know they're doing a review for us as well?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Principe?
Yeah, no, Principe, that's correct.
Principe,
Yep.
how about we go with Tom? How's it going?
That's fine. Yeah. Hey, Mike.
All right, so we've had issues with these rain gardens in the past. Can you provide us with some examples of functioning, working that you guys have designed and something typical? Like I'm looking at the design, I see that it meets the criteria, but we've had problems with designs that look to meet the criteria in the past. So
Sure.
if you have some existing.
Yeah, I mean, we've designed these more frequently. They're becoming more common because with these rain garden bioretention areas, you know, they achieve a lot of different goals. They achieve stormwater volume, but they also achieve your recharge and stormwater quality calculations after the water goes through, it infiltrates through sand media, mulch media, and obviously, you know, has some exfiltration characteristics as well. So the biggest thing to these bioretention rain garden areas that I find with these clients and projects that we do is maintenance. Maintenance is probably the biggest thing with these bioretention areas. If they go unmaintained for a season, even 2 seasons, then they will not function as designed. And that's something that we have built in to our detail and our regulation sheets that I believe should be recorded, so we can hold the owner accountable for the maintenance of these basins itself. And just like anything else, you know, proper maintenance with the septic, proper maintenance with the parking area. This porous asphalt is another maintenance item. Again, knowing there's maintenance, again, I believe in my detail sheets, I believe I have some maintenance. Here's just a typical cross section of the media for the asphalt.
That sheet too, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do have, and if I don't have it here, I apologize. I usually put maintenance application and maintenance requirements that are
I'm sure it's in your
necessary.
stormwater report. I'm not saying that your design doesn't meet the criteria. What I'm saying is, show me one that's 2 years old that's still working. That's kind of where I'm at. All you got to do is get us a couple of photos or.
Yeah, we can work on that. Sure.
All right.
Yep.
I appreciate that because, like I said, this is something that has come up on a number of occasions. You know, novel designs and you know, I get it. They meet a lot of the requirements, but if they don't work, they don't work. So,
Mike, one of the things I learned in my class is it's really also about the quality of the source materials. So that soil mix that goes into there is so key. So I'd like to see what your, you know, listing is. And then the problem is the contractor has to put the right thing in. Correct.
Yep. Yeah. So inspection, and again, I mean, we could talk to, you know, planning and zoning about that. You know, who would, you know, maybe the company doing the peer review, maybe they do, you know, some of the on-site inspections. And
we have a separate firm that does the inspections. So the town does. Yeah.
Yes. So it's very important to have a great design, a great installation, and great maintenance. If you don't have one of those 3 items, then none of these drainage mitigational measures will function properly.
These are just a lot less forgiving than a big old detention basin stuffed in the back of a lot.
Absolutely. Yep. But again, with the detention, you have no stormwater quality or any recharge characteristics and obviously aesthetics.
The other question I have is, so you have pervious pavement. Do you expect there to be a flow of water through the filter course in a direction? Is there a subdrain that captures the water and deposits it into the rain garden?
No.
Or is it all exfiltration from there?
I'm sorry. So you're talking about, I think, two separate things. You talked about exfiltration and rain garden.
No,
and
I'm talking about I'm off the rain gardens. I'm
Okay.
on the porous pavement.
Got it. Yeah. So no. So technically, the flow pattern, there shouldn't be any overland flow unless it's clogging and of the porous asphalt. It will infiltrate just like porous pavers do in a landscape feature. It's designed to actually soak up and recharge the stormwater runoff. So there is really no concentrated flow pattern. There's no gutter line. There's no conveyance with this. So again, there's a lot of pros with the porous asphalt. The biggest con is the maintenance of it. But given the environmental sensitivity of this site being wetlands on all three sides, it's very difficult to propose impervious asphalt down and put in a big detention system underground that's not going to drain anywhere. So it's very, very difficult.
In terms of your estimated high groundwater relative to the porous pavement asphalt detail,
Yep.
Can we go over there?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, where do you expect what's the requirements for groundwater relative to porous asphalt section?
Yeah. So what we need to do is we just need to have a 2-foot separation to the infiltration surface. And that's something that we could actually show on here, but this is something that is needed for this to actually function properly, because if this obviously is underwater, you can't add water to water. It's not going to function properly.
Have you done test pits out there?
So the information, the soils information that we have is, I'm sorry. Oh, good night, boy. Sorry, my 3-year-old's going to bed right now. So she apologize, everybody. Good night.
Pitching hour.
Yeah, he snuck himself up to my office. But yeah, so we didn't do any additional test holes out here. The information we had was from the soil testing from Crossman next door and from the septic system out in the front there. We did walk the site several times under our survey, and we did walk and reflag the wetland perimeter that was approved from the prior permit from FedEx. And what we did, again, I'm a soil evaluator as well. So, I mean, naturally I knew that water table wasn't deep, so we didn't need to get a backhoe out there. So I had a hand auger that I dug some,
Hey, this guy can do a hand auger. Did you hear that, guys?
Yeah. Well, it just gives me as much information as I can. I mean, if I've got standing water coming down at a foot, then I know I'm in trouble. So, it's not too wet. It's pretty sandy material, very well drained. So, I didn't see a negative issue with that.
So at some point, I would say that obviously eyeball test tells me that you got resource area all the way around. Groundwater is right there at whatever that surface is probably coming. When you're on the site, can you see, is there an elevation difference between the resource area flags and in your work area? How much fill are you gonna have to bring in to make this porous section work?
Yeah, there's probably maybe a 2.5-foot grade difference from the resource area around the perimeter to the parking area.
Mm-hmm. So your driveway is going to have to be taller than it is now.
Not necessarily. And again, I mean, that's a great point.
Well,
that
if you've got your 2 foot of separation to groundwater, then there's some bad math in there somewhere.
Yeah. So again, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, we have a proposed contour in here. So, I mean, I think we were figuring about a foot or so, but that's something that I think is a great question and that we would have to assign an elevation to, but I don't foresee it coming up significantly more than what we're proposing. I think we should dial that in a little bit more. But again, you're correct. We do need to make sure we have that proper separation.
Also, it says optional liner for land uses. If you're not going to propose a liner in there, can you take that off the detail?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, I got a couple other questions while I'm
Sure.
at it. So in terms of the existing area, the existing amount of okay, so typically on the town of Seekonk has, you know, a 25-foot no disturb, 50-foot no structures.
Yep.
Understood that this is a redevelopment project.
Mhm.
Do you know when the lot was created, and do you know if it predates the conservation regulations? Jen, do you have that question?
Yeah, the buildings on site definitely predate our bylaw, so I'm gonna guess lot creation is before then.
Okay, so we got that covered.
Mhm.
My concern is that we're expanding impervious area, even though it's pervious pavement,
Mhm.
but we're expanding the footprint of pavement, impervious or otherwise, beyond what was there in the existing conditions. Have you done an analysis to see? Once again, let's throw away the word porous pavement and just call it asphalt, right?
Yep. Yeah, right.
Have we increased the impervious area on the site, even though it's porous?
So to answer your question, then that yes, the answer would be yes, if we considered porous impervious, yes.
How do we feel about that, Chris?
Done correctly, according to my class, yes, it is impervious
All right, so
with maintenance. And
so do you think
You
that
mean
any of this
porous,
stuff
I'm sorry.
that
Porous, yeah.
of course, it's
Porous.
Yeah, porous, yes.
any of this stuff require, does anything here trigger a variance, Jen?
Yeah. that's a good
It's
question.
existing disturbance, so let me share my screen real quick so you can see what the site looks like currently. Oh, you have to stop sharing, sorry,
Oh,
Tom.
sorry. Yeah, okay. There you go.
You can kind of see, I'm sorry, it's got the FEMA flood zone layer on it, so it's all orange, but you can see that there's some tree cover on site.
Yep,
So you are proposing new disturbance.
gotcha.
And this is kind of what it looks like back there right now. So a lot of that, you can see there's some clearing at the rear of the site with tree canopy over top. Right.
So do you think there's trees larger than 6 inches that are going to get removed?
No,
I guess I would,
so, right?
I'd defer to Tom on that one.
Yeah, I don't think so, because a lot of this area was, I mean, he had like outside storage, he had cars parked over there. So yeah, there you go. So this photo kind of shows where our porous pavement would be. And again, as far as land clearing, there's really not much land clearing. They would just obviously have to strip out the top and a little bit of the subsoil. But again, you can see even on this photo how flat, you know, the actual site is. So again, changing the contours is really not significant in this project, but this area would be porous pavement itself. So I don't foresee us disturbing any, I guess, natural vegetation or existing undisturbed vegetation. A large majority of the site has already been turned up, if you will.
So
And you can see on the right side, I'm sorry, you can see on the right side of the screen, go to the right. See that pink flag to the right a little bit more?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
There's
Yeah.
a wetland. So you can see the wetland, and then you can see the existing disturbance. So it's very similar to what we are proposing. It's not a natural, pristine, wooded area.
Can you confirm that no trees larger than 6 inches?
I can confirm that. I will confirm that. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
is the existing tree line on the plan? I know I
Not.
just shared my screen, but
I'm looking at the plan set and there's no specific tree line.
Yeah, like I said, and again, I'll check that as well. So I'm making notes here for you guys. I think again, the tree line, the natural tree line, is the perimeter of the property, but we'll verify that.
And it's is it the FEMA 500 or is that a FEMA AE or A zone?
No, it's outside of the flood zone.
Yeah, so if it was the 100-year, it'd be turquoise. This is,
Yeah,
It's in the, so it's in the X 500.
the X, zone X, yep.
So with redevelopment, you can take existing, I guess it's disturbed, but, impervious area and convert it to, a parking lot. Is that within the regulations?
so I
Well,
think,
see,
go ahead, Mike.
well, usually the redevelopment in the storm, usually that comes up in the stormwater policy or has to do with riparian corridors, right? You get that certain amount of impacts. Usually with redevelopment projects, you're talking about impervious area. Looks to me like this area back here is not already paved.
Right.
Yes.
So it's all new impervious area. However, it was already disturbed. So we're not disturbing new. We also have a lot that was, to me, I don't know. I feel like this has got to be somehow a variance to the 25-foot no disturb.
I think doing new work, this will require new work in
Right.
the 50. So I would agree with the fact that it needs a variance, but I think it qualifies. It's at the commission's discretion as to whether or
Right.
not to issue it.
Right. I think it meets the initial sniff test.
It needs a variance, but it's grandfathered in to have the potential for a variance. Is that correct?
Subject to the vote.
Right, potential.
Gotcha.
So Tom, what we would need for the variance request, I can send you some examples, is it would get added to the plan set on the cover sheet. And then we would get a separate request letter as well.
Yeah.
And that's for new structures in the 50.
So
And
it's
then this is
structures in
just-
the 50? Is it new structures in the 50 or just the impacts to the 25? No
Well,
disturb.
it's gonna be both.
What's the structure? What are we calling the structure?
Parking lot.
Because it's permanent structure within the 50.
Gotcha. Okay.
I guess one thought I have is regards to the proposed porous asphalt, like some of that parking area comes within, looks like a foot or two from the resource area. And then looking at the section of that detail, you're going down 2 feet plus. It just seems like you're gonna be scooping out a lot of dirt really close to that wetland area. And that kind of makes me a little uneasy. I would almost say limit the pervious asphalt to, excluding the last bay of parking along the perimeter so that you're really only impacting 2 or 3 inches along that boundary, if that's the case.
Nate, do you want to go back to his screen so you can be looking at the plan as you're talking about that?
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. Right now, it looks like some of that, if it doesn't accept the water quick enough, it's gonna shed untreated stormwater into the resource area. That's another concern. If it was graded to pitch, that first 10 feet were graded to pitch back into the parking lot, it would all get caught and treated. But right now, that's not what it's so flat that,
Yeah, it's just like, just have like a little mound of dirt between the wetland area and the parking lot. And I don't know, I could see that breaking, erosion. Or is there any concern about moving all this dirt around in a disturbed area?
I mean, it really, what matters is their construction sequence and how they do it. That's the thing.
They would pretty much have to hay bale the entire perimeter.
And they can't leave any stockpiles there, anything that could run off. They'd have to remove soil immediately. They can't leave any stockpiles in that area.
I would say maybe a silt sock would be more appropriate than wattles or bales for this site.
Well, yeah, erosion control.
Yep.
you see what I'm saying about the runoff at the, let's assume that the porous pavement next spring's got a little bit of junk in it and they haven't gotten out there with the vac truck. Then the water is just shedding off of this thing sheet flow right down into the resource area without getting captured in the rain garden. It looks to me like the rain garden is really only contributed by the roof.
That's correct. The rain garden is only contributing, the roof is only discharging to this rain garden. Yeah, it's not designed to capture any of this parking. area.
So
Yep.
because I'm pessimistic and assume that this vac truck won't get out there 3 times or 4 times a year like it might need, is there a way to force the problem into the parking lot? You know what I'm saying? Because if your owner isn't a good steward of his stormwater,
Mhm.
your design won't make him pay a price of having water ponding in his parking lot because it will just shed off.
Mhm.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
Is
Again,
there a
it be-
sto-
yeah.
is there a storm drain on 6? Route 6?
There are storm drains on Route 6, but I don't believe in front of our property. We looked at that.
Yeah, I'm just
That's
wondering, I'm wondering if you horseshoed this property, this area, so that if what Mike is talking about, and then somehow you have, if there is a storm system out on Route 6, you could always pipe it back out that way.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the other thing we could do, I mean, Mike was saying about having the owner, kind of pay for, lack of maintenance. I mean, we could create a berm along the resource area, along the edge of pavement.
Right.
So it at least has some time to hold it back.
Yeah, and he'd have a real problem on his hands too at that point.
Correct. So then he says, oh crap, I need to get my monthly maintenance or my, quarterly maintenance done. The other thing too is we don't have enough room here, but sometimes we can put in a pea stone diaphragm in here to allow some of this, if it were to run off as a kind of a backup measure, it could kind of infiltrate, or this could kind of be all, instead of mulch, it could be all stone in here, just to try to further infiltrate some of that runoff if it does indeed, back up and flow towards the resource area.
I think my brain is having trouble overcoming what happens when this thing fails.
Yeah.
That to me, and this is at peer review at this point.
So actually, I have a correction on that. So the peer review hasn't been started yet. We have a firm that has accepted and is ready to start, but we don't have authorization to proceed from the client yet.
Okay.
So we've been waiting 3 weeks for that, I guess.
Jennifer, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not definite on it, but I believe in a parking area such as this, that planning requires it to be curbed.
I don't know. I would have to check with the town planner.
Yeah, could you do that? Because for some reason, it just doesn't, I mean, I don't see any kind of, especially on these parking lots to the south, I don't see any kind of a structure that would retain somebody who overshot the parking space.
Now you're thinking like Mike.
Listen, you know what? Murphy's Law is a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But there'll
Not
be
only
fencing
that,
as well, right?
Not only that, but the guy who comes in with the plow truck, last snowstorm, Fred did the plowing and put it where it was supposed to be. Now that area is completely filled. And George shows up and he goes, what am I gonna do with all this snow? Oh, I'll just push it off the edge.
And he plows it right over those little trees.
Yep.
So at this point, one thing that hasn't come up is the post and rail fence idea. That would help with some of that. I feel like there's a risk that the resource area gets impacted just by spillover. We're so close to it. I think I would feel more comfortable if this had a fence around it. And not a chain link fence, but our typical post and rail, keep the yahoos out of the resource area kind of fence.
Like a timber rail fence, like a wood
Something
back
that can be
timber.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I would say that I'm looking at this. I feel like there's a way to make this work. I really have concerns about porous pavement that clogs up, and then we just have a parking lot with sheet flow into the resource area. I think that to me is a real concern. I
Right
also, go ahead, Chris.
Right on a major road that's gonna be sanded, and sand to get in there, and that sand would be deadly on that.
And admittedly, look at how many parking spots he's got. He's got this many parking spots because he plans on a lot of cars coming in here. And
Even sitting on tires.
you know, so, and you know what? More power to him. The more cars, the merrier. I also don't think there's enough snow storage here. I mean, I'm just looking out at my driveway right now after 8 inches of snow.
Oh, yeah, there's not enough, I can tell you that.
And I'm with Richard on this. And the very first thing that someone does is they come over here between flags C18 and C17, and they go right off the cliff down that nice convenient little slope that makes all the snow go away.
And that's where a fence will help too.
And that's where a fence is going to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom, does another sheet specify a fence? I thought we looked at that at one of the TRC meetings.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I do have my notes here. No, I'll have to make sure that's on the next plan. I'll make a note here. Yep, post and rail fence.
On that same subject, does police or any other department require, or through the marijuana control board, whatever, is there any requirement for a different type of fencing that you're going to run into if we specify split rail?
No, because we don't need security fencing or anything like that. No.
Okay.
So split rail should be fine. Yeah.
So this is exclusively retail facility.
Yes, correct. Yep. And again, just to touch base on the snow storage. I mean, I agree with the board. And again, to the point where, again, we're showing more parking than what's required, just because we already know with the current, volume that our client already does in other locations. We could show or expand this snow storage area, and obviously containing some of this existing parking area. And then I think that's what we should probably do, because just like any other snowstorm, and you look at the Stop and Shops and the Shaws and the major retailers, they always lose some parking for snow storage. I think that's something I could expand to. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't know that from our perspective, you losing parking spots because there's not enough snow storage is not our concern. Our concern is that someone takes it upon himself to dump it down that hill.
Right.
Like I said, it's an awful, that guy, he sees that little hill and he just pushes that. The first time he does it, it becomes what happens out there.
Right.
So
right.
I think a fence is probably going to be on everybody's list here.
Yep.
I can't speak for everybody, but
designating those parking spaces as the additional snow storage is a very good idea.
Yeah. Yep.
And
I think the fence is a good idea too. Yep.
I'm going to add into this, if we're going to have to seek a variance request here, I'm just looking at this parking lot and the size of it. And you're like a full bay parking, 9 foot by 18 foot space with a 24-foot aisle. I mean, that doesn't need to be that big. That could be, and I don't know what's required by planning, but if that gets shrunk
I would
down.
caution though, man. I mean, these facilities make the news for one problem: traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they need that parking.
Yeah,
But that back bay though, I mean, 20 feet wide parking space. I mean, it only has to be, standard's 18.
So you say it could be a compact area for perhaps back there.
Yeah, you could go down to 16 for that, and you'd really give that some more buffer. So I'll just say, look at it, and if you have any room you can do to shrink that down a little bit to make it more kinder to the buffers.
Yeah, we could probably actually cut at least 3 feet off of this here. This is what you're talking about?
Yeah, and the back end too. So I see the 16 feet there, but you can shrink that down to, I mean, that at least has like 4 or 5 feet away from the edge of the pavement to the resource area. But if you go down to the rear where you have that 24-foot dimension.
Oh, gotcha.
I just did a quick takeoff on the parking stall itself, and it's 20 feet. And those typically, at a grocery store, they're 18 feet. So
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's something we could probably talk to planning about. Again, most towns require the 18 to 20 foot length. I mean, if we can cut that down, I don't think we can cut down the 24 because that's a typical design standard on aisle widths so we can they can comfortably back up and turn around. But I think that's something I'll make a note of, and we can talk to planning about, I believe tomorrow night, we'll be there.
And if you do shorten them up, it comes back at in grassed area, not in
Right.
more parking
Correct.
spots someplace else, right?
Yep. Exactly. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
No, but I understand the parking situation. Like I said, it's the one thing that they make the news about is the parking problems.
Yep.
So Tom, in the interest of getting the peer review going, now that you're before both planning and conservation, we don't have authorization yet from your client. So if you can nudge them to get that authorization to us, we'd like to get that going, because otherwise it'll hold you up.
Yeah,
This
no,
process.
I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me. Yep.
Yeah, and so there's a separate traffic study as well for peer review. That's neither here nor there for conservation, but just we need both of those going for.
Absolutely.
The two
Okay, I'll get a hold of them tomorrow morning. Yep.
Okay. One thing I noted on my site visit is that there is a intermittent stream. It doesn't show as a blue line on the USGS, but it's called out with separate flagging on the site, but it's not noted on the plan.
Okay, we can show that. Yep.
Okay. Because it's pretty close to the wetland edge on that kind of eastern side.
Yeah, I think it's a layer that's frozen here in the drawing, so I'll look into that. Yep.
Okay. There's also a lot of site debris from the previous use, and I think the commission would probably want to see some of that removed by hand, or depending on where it falls within the disturbance, just making sure that it doesn't get pushed out further into the resource area.
Yep. Okay, we'll discuss that with the client.
So you got planning tomorrow night? Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, hey, get those variance requests in. Get the plan revised.
Yep. Okay.
Hey, any other questions from the commission? Any other comments? Have any hands raised?
Nope.
Okay, then I'll accept a motion to continue SC 690-919-19034 River Avenue to March 8th at some time after 7 p.m.
And Tom, you're agreeable to continuing to that date?
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's
Okay.
great.
And then we'll just need a continuance form as soon as you can get it to us. Okay.
Yep. Get that to you.
So moved. Mike Campagnon.
Second, Chris Carney.
All in favor?
Aye, Mike Campagnon.
Aye, Rob Emlin.
Aye, Chris Carney.
I, Nate Sosha.
Aye, Richard Wallace. Thank you,
Well, there
Tom.
you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Thanks, Tom.
See you, Mike.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have discussion with Mass DOT project on Route 44. Are they here to talk to us?
So we have Dave Cabral from DPW, our
Okay.
superintendent, here to talk about it. This was, if you recall, this project was before us last month as an RDA with just, obviously the roadway resurfacing doesn't need any type of permit with us. But they were before us asking for permission to do some additional work at the 4 crossings in that stretch. The town would like to take a look at adding sidewalk in that area. In fact, sidewalks were on the original proposal, but Mass DOT pulled them just to kind of expedite their permitting process. So Dave, I'll let Dave kind of take over from here, and I'll share my screen. I've got a few aerial images in case we need them for reference. All right, Dave, it's all yours.
Yeah, we still have yours.
Yeah, you're still sharing, Jennifer.
Yep, just Dave is going to do the audio.
Oh, okay.
Hold on for 1 second, sorry. So Dave, we're giving you permission to unmute your phone too, because I think you're called in as well.
One's an attendee, one's a panelist.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. Okay.
Thank
All
you
right,
for
there we
being
go.
patient while we figure out the phone aspect.
Phones and computers, gotta love it. Anyway, good evening. Yeah, so I guess it was mid-January. Jen had kind of reached out to myself and Sean Kadim about their review with the Mass DOT environmental end of things for the Route 44 corridor, and sidewalks were discussed. I was actually kind of surprised then that they split this project into 2 projects. They initially had one project that went the length from the Rhode Island border to the Rehoboth line. So they split this project up, I'd say about almost close to a year ago. And the first project is going from the Rhode Island line to Peck Street. And then the second, and that's an improvement project. There's some improvements there for the intersection upgrades of the traffic lights at 114A, Route 44, which are much needed out there. I've been pushing at those locations for years now. But the other part of the project goes from Peck Street to the Rehoboth line. And one of the things I noted after Jen brought it to my attention is they had eliminated the sidewalk. They initially showed a sidewalk on the drawings that I got a couple of years ago, and that sidewalk was located on the south side, so the opposite side of Town Hall, from Peck Street all the way to Lincoln Street. Actually, I think, well, I went a little bit past Lincoln Street anyway. What they did is they had sidewalks from the Rhode Island line to Peck Street. They ran sidewalks on both sides of the roadway and did a crossing at the public safety complex, which my understanding is going to get moved to Peck Street. We've had discussions with Mass DOT about connectivity to Peck Street, to the senior center, possibly looking at some point down the road of putting sidewalks in on Peck Street to the Town Hall Animal Shelter location. So it made sense to consider moving that pedestrian crossing with the traffic light and all. I know that the current plans show it at the public safety, but the intention, I believe, is to get that to Peck Street. With that said, I want to focus on this part of the project. This project right now, which goes from Peck Street to the Rehoboth line, is a preservation project. Basically, what they're saying is they're just going to do upgrades, mill and overlay, Route 44, with minimal improvements. The one improvement noted being at Lincoln Street. At Lincoln Street, there's going to be a flashing beacon placed over the roadway. I believe they're considering a speed zone through that area because we have the crest of the hill, visibility issues, some safety concerns, and things of that nature. But all they show at Lincoln Street are improvements immediately at the intersection. So there's going to be sidewalks on each approach to that intersection, but no connectivity. So I revisited the plans. We actually had this on TRC at the end of January there, January 28th, and had discussion on sidewalks, consideration of it. There is interest in the town. We are looking to get a letter from the Board of Selectmen to Mass DOT Director Joe Perry requesting sidewalks. And we kind of looked at the limits at the TRC meeting, what made sense, what do we like to see. And, you know, at the end of that meeting, we didn't really, we thought sidewalks are important, at least one side of the roadway. Didn't really matter which side of the roadway, essentially, to the group. I did revisit the corridor and kind of looked at it a little bit more. All the utility poles are on the north side of 44. So I just wanted to bring that to the commission's attention tonight, because I think by looking at this again a little bit differently, they developed a plan that exists some time ago that showed the sidewalks on the south side, the opposite side of the utility poles. It's always easier to put the sidewalks in my opinion, on that side of the roadway that does not have a utility pole corridor. So, you know, we would like to see that connectivity. I think it's important. I do see some regulars walking out on Route 44. There's a gentleman out there that has 3 German Shepherds. You've probably seen him out there. He walks a good length of that corridor, at least from Lake Street in that general area. Then there's a older gentleman, and I think his son walks that corridor daily. Maybe not so much with the snow on the ground right now, but I do see pedestrian activity, and unfortunately, the pedestrians are walking in the shoulder on Route 44, with people going down that road at about 55 miles an hour. So, you know, I'd like to kind of leave it with that. I think if the commission is interested in, there are some wetland impacts. I think Jen's ready to talk about. I think there were 4 locations with wetland impacts that Jen's probably going to talk about. I'd like to review those with you folks too, to get a better understanding of what they are. I don't think it's anything we can't overcome rather easily. And, you know, if the commission is in favor, I think if we could get a letter of support from you folks to Mass DOT for sidewalks, that would go a long way, especially since you guys are kind of the environmental permitting authority. With that said, I'll turn it over to Jen to discuss those locations, and then I'd like to hear the comments from the board.
Okay. So similar to last month with Mass DOT, there are 4 crossings, wetland crossings in that stretch. There's right outside of Peck Street, the very first one with a potential vernal pool on each side of the road. And then I do have close-up aerials, but just so you can see where the 4 are. Then there's a pond a little bit further down close to the Elm Street intersection, and another crossing just before the turkey farm area, Bellwing, and then further down just before the dance studio. So those are the 4 crossings. The first one starting from Peck Street. So here's Peck Street. You can see that there's, you know, a relatively good size wetland area, and most of that being potential vernal pool, another potential vernal pool across the street. And Dave, you were saying sidewalks it looks like the best option would be on the south side of the road, correct?
Yeah, that would be my opinion because of where the utility corridor is, which is on the north side.
Okay. Just a quick couple of snapshots that I had taken for Mass DOT in terms of vegetation as far as what those wetlands look like on either. Actually, this is one down, I think.
A couple of those are really filled with frag, aren't they?
Yeah. And then we've got the pond area, like I said, across from Elm Street. So this one shows the north side and then the south side.
Is that the pond that used to have the slide?
I don't know. That predates me, so I don't know.
It's the one right along the road, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is the crossing a little bit further down, just before the turkey farm. Again, it's pretty dense with a lot of invasives on both sides. And then this is the last crossing by the dance studio. This one's got a little bit of an asphalt buildup and some erosion issues with drainage off the roadway. So there's already some impact to the resource area. A little bit of pepper bush though, so that's good. And then this was just showing a little bit more of the erosion going on. So I think really, I guess what it comes down to is kind of gauging where the commission feels. So Mass DOT pulled the sidewalks from the proposal because they felt like the environmental permitting given for resource area crossings was maybe going to be a bit of a hurdle or an obstacle. And to expedite, because they're hoping to pave this spring, that they pulled that so that they could do the RDA instead of the NOI. So really what the town's looking for is kind of gauging where the commission sits on this. And I know we've looked at other sidewalk improvements, like on Arcade, and the commission's felt has been pretty supportive of that. So I think from Dave's perspective, he just wanted to get a sense of where does the commission sit with this? Do you feel like there's enough of a corridor accessibility issue and those sort of things to warrant or to mitigate the impacts to these resource areas?
I think it's a great community betterment that if we can make it work, that'd be great to have sidewalks on 44, either north or south. It seems like there's a lot more activity on the north end, which I think might require some thought on which side to go on to. And then I also want to say, Dave, are you guys going to tee off Lincoln Street as well? That's kind of out of the scope, but that'd be great if that could happen in this process.
Did you say tee off Lincoln Street?
Yeah, you know how like when you're coming down Lincoln Street, how you're basically, if you're waiting in the opposite direction in front of you. So if someone's like blindly going through it, they're going to be heading right into another car. It'd be great if Mass DOT could take a quick look at that and just see if they can align the two edges of Lincoln Street without
Yeah, I got you on that. Yeah, so they don't line geometrically. They don't line at a true four-way intersection. But no, they wouldn't be looking to do that. They're kind of doing this one just as a that type of project they call it, just a preservation project. So they're not looking to do any geometric improvements out there. There'd be some right of way associated with that, but they are trying to draw mainly for the safety aspect. And I know the geometrics plays into it a little bit too out there in terms of trying to maneuver across there and having that limited visibility. But I think they're just trying to draw the attention more that there is an issue out there with that sight lines on 44 itself, where we've had a substantial number of accidents out there, a lot of them with injury, that prompted them to do that flashing beacon and set up a speed zone through that section on 44. So they're not going to fly through it at 55 miles an hour, hopefully, but knock them down.
They'll still be going through it at 55 miles an hour, man.
There you go. I agree with you on that. If they post it, though, the benefit is that we can enforce it. So we can at least try to calm it down in there. And I think the flashing light will draw attention that, hey, something's happening here. It is an area prone to accidents. There's no getting away from it. I believe they're the flashing beacon, and they're putting the sidewalks in on each approach. I didn't get a latest copy of the plan, so I don't know if it's going to actually be a traffic crossing with pedestrian actuated to actually physically allow someone to cross the road there too, in terms of pedestrians anyway. I don't know if that was built into it or if it's just a true flashing beacon like we have at Arcade at Newman. But to your point, they are not looking to do any geometric alignment out there. I think the cost associated is for what this project is. I don't think they're putting that money there at this time anyway.
So, quick question about, so I think from the perspective, my perspective, it sounds to me like, there'd be some variances involved, but I think we meet the criteria for that type of work.
Yeah,
What I
so
wouldn't want is a slew of unengineered plans without resource area delineations and some engineering design that went into what it takes to do this, because an engineered set of plans to add a driveway over there would require a whole lot of fill. There'd be some resource area delineation, and there'd be just some design work associated with it. And I think that my expectation is that it would be a real set of plans, not a Mass DOT 8.5 by 11 sheet of figures, which is what we usually get from them in terms of this type of design work.
Yeah, so and this is actually being designed in-house by Mass DOT, and they did show sidewalks initially on the plan set, with the intent of making them work. So their environmental section is also reviewing the plan set, which is really good. So, and that's part of the reason why I was kind of left out of the loop to some degree. I mean, that and COVID, I guess, because the in-house design, they just moved this thing forward. And I was kind of pretty surprised to find out that they were getting ready to advertise this project this spring for construction. So, time is of the essence to some degree. I plan on letting the town administrator know that, we're going to get support and hopefully get a letter drafted for consideration by the board members to get to Mass DOT. But this should be, will be a fully designed. I mean, it's, they're going to go to construction with a full set of plans, cost estimates, the whole bit, plans and specs like they typically do for any of their roadway projects. So And like I said, it's all been being designed in-house.
Yeah.
One aspect of it I think that's very important and worthy to note is that it's good and fortunate that they actually had the sidewalks in here initially. If they had to, at this point in time, had to go back and start over and say, now we're adding sidewalks, that would delay this project a year. Absolutely, would just slow it right down. I think we're probably in a good place here, and putting them on the south side to me is, one side or the other. As long as we have them on one side, at least we have that connectivity, and it should be rather simple for them to put it back in. That's my hope.
Dave?
So how do we treat areas where we're losing resource areas? I mean, are we looking at, replication of resource areas, or we're, are we talking?
I think they would be looking for a variance as a public improvement project. They would just be looking for a variance. I wouldn't expect that we would get replication out of it, but I guess that's, would be part of the NOI discussion. How does the
So
commission feel?
to that point, Dave, can you tell me how many of those crossings where the sidewalks would go that you would have to either extend culvert, some type of a head wall changing, and if so, what do you estimate the total footage of disturbance would be?
At this point, I don't even have any idea of that because I haven't seen their plan set. All I had initially was just a preliminary. It didn't show any substantial improvements as you're talking. I was actually kind of hoping they might have shown something through Jennifer's review at some point, but it doesn't sound like it. So at this point, I don't really know what they have, but I can certainly. Right. I'm waiting to actually get a set of plans from them. And I can share that with the board members very easily through Jennifer once I do get them.
How wide is this proposed sidewalk going to be?
Typically, Mass DOT does a 5-foot sidewalk area. I don't know. I'd like to see them put the granite curbing in there just for longevity, but typically it would be a granite curbing and a 5-foot cement concrete sidewalk, similar to what we have up on the north end of town on Central Avenue, when we redid that piece of the Baker's
It'd be
Corner.
a concrete sidewalk? It'd be concrete?
Well, I don't. Again, they haven't specified on the plan. They just showed me a sidewalk, so I don't know what it was. It's the material.
All right. Fair enough.
I hope it would be cement, for longevity, but I would take a sidewalk even if they were proposing to put asphalt out on that roadway, just to give that buffer of that traffic as you're fully aware.
Can I ask a question about that, Dave? So the speeds on Newman Ave are a little bit different than on this stretch of 44, right? So would there be some sort of separation between the two, whether it's a barricade or whatever it might be, that would add additional width to the project?
I don't see them adding barricade out there for that purpose, but they would add, full curbing. That's why if you just have a sea of black asphalt, berm and sidewalk, I would think it would be a lot better to have a physical, to change in the pavement color from asphalt, bituminous asphalt to the cement concrete would certainly lend itself to that. And I know there are other roads that have the speed limits that are up a little bit in that 50, 55 mile an hour range. And, at least it delineates and you have that separation that way. And there is a shoulder on 44. That's rather wide, which is what the people now walking in the shoulder, at least they would have that shoulder, and the sidewalk should be at the edge of the shoulder, I would imagine, the way that plans were shown that I remember. The sidewalk would be at the edge of that shoulder inland, into the grass or the wooded area of that piece of roadway.
Do you know what the right of way is off the top of your head?
They've got a pretty wide right of way out there. I believe I'm thinking 60 feet or more out there. It might even be an odd number, like 68, but it's quite wide.
I mean, if possible, in some locations, having either the sidewalk not directly adjacent to the roadway, but with a lawn buffer of 3 feet would be, appreciated.
Yeah.
I think for the purposes of this conversation, I don't think that anyone here is a straight no. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you meet the criteria for the variances that you'd probably need.
Right. And I think to
And-
Richard's question, we were looking at 4 crossings, so I would assume all those culverts are gonna need to be lengthened.
Extended, right.
Yeah.
So that gives
Yeah,
you a
we
good
would
idea
think
of what the disturbance would be. You're probably looking maybe at 10 feet at most at each crossing.
Maybe,
yeah,
maybe a
but
little
the-
bit more, because some of
because
them
you
have
got the
wetlands
width.
right there.
Yeah.
They tend to slope it like a 3-to-1 slope at the back of sidewalk. So
And can we, I suppose we can do whatever we want, but can we give a variance for taking resource areas without replication? Is that a thing? Richard?
Trying to remember how the wetland regulations apply to
Public projects and public
basically
betterment.
the state. I mean, in some cases, there are cases where we truly don't have any jurisdiction over. For instance, when the electric utilities want to go in and do maintenance on their high lines and they need to put down padding into the wetlands,
Mhm.
basically we can't stop them. Same thing with the gas companies. Same with all the utilities. Now, is this a public convenience? It might have some kind of a statutory exemption to it. I think there is one, but I can't put my finger on it.
Is there a way that DOT could do what DOT does to us when they come here and just say, yeah, because of the blah, 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 I forget what it was. I can send you the letter. Remember that conversation?
Yeah, they pretty much come as a respect and, just to say, this is what we're doing. This is it. Yeah. They really don't have to. But I'm trying to remember, I believe it's in a state statute and it comes under public convenience.
Right, but that's for maintenance of existing, like this is an expansion. So I think that's where Dave was coming from with this, is wanting to gauge kind of where the commission has a comfort level with this. Like if this is something that the commission is generally on board with, and it's a matter of fine tuning it to get it to the right comfort level, with the right
Well, I think
scoping.
to Mike's point, and I think what he's getting at is that if we're going to say to the state, yeah, go ahead, disturb this area, normally we ask for something in return. And my point is that, I mean, maybe it's a safety issue. You have people who are walking I see them all the time on 44, walking on the side of the road. There's no sidewalk. Even down near Bellwing.
Exactly. And I would say this, right? I mean, I dealt with Mass DOT on the Central Avenue project. They typically will try to replicate wetland area. They actually replicated a little bit of disturbance they had. There wasn't a lot, but they did have a little bit of disturbance out there, if I remember correctly, and they replicated it within that project. Certainly, if they feel that there's really, nowhere within the corridor to replicate it, they may come back asking for, some kind of variance or whatever the case may be. But listen, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be coming before this board asking you for permission to impact your wetlands here if it weren't something beneficial, I think, to the community, and safety being that one. So that's basically why I figured it'd be, the time is of the essence to some degree here to even make it happen. Trying to get the support of the board. And I think if we look at it at the end of the day, if you, as a board later on, review it under the NOI, you have to make a decision whether you want to, get trump some of the disturbances that may be involved in favor of the safety aspect. So that's kind of what we're weighing here, I believe.
I don't disagree with that, Dave. And I'm just trying to, I guess I'm not articulating it correctly, but I would prefer to say that if we're going to have to issue a variance, we're going to issue it under whatever it is, state MGL, whatever it is. If we can put it under an MGL, I think that's better. I don't want to put the Mass DOT into a position where that if we say we want this and we want that with that, they're going to say, well, forget it then.
Yeah,
I got you.
I would say that my perspective on this is that the opportunity for the variances exists. And I think that as a group that we've been really tightwad about variances but this fits the criteria. This actually fits the criteria. To that end, I think that if when you talk to them, you could talk about maybe not one-to-one replication, but there's probably a couple places around here where you could scratch a little bit away over here, put a couple of bushes and some wetland seed mix and call it a replication area and get us to the point where we're not just losing all of the resource areas that this thing crosses. I can see it getting through, you know?
Yeah.
That's the best I would put it.
I think, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
in
good.
listening to the commission, I think, Dave, you can report back, so to speak, that we're not obtuse to it, but we just want to make sure that it's done correctly, so to speak, that it's not a major disturbance. It's a minor issue.
And that we take advantage of obvious opportunities to replicate the
Right.
impacts. Obvious
Yeah,
opportunities.
and I think they would be on board with that as well.
Cool.
So ultimately, Dave, I know you're looking for a letter from the Board of
Yep.
Selectmen. Are you looking for like a letter or memo from the commission, kind of wrapping up what we just talked about?
I think it
I would
should.
if they are willing to do it. It's a little interesting to ask for, a letter where there's an impact to something that you guys always are trying to protect. But again, if I'll put it out there for your consideration. If I can get a little bit more information for you, I'll try to do that. But I don't know, how quickly they'll be able to get me plan information and stuff like that. The board is probably going to move forward. I'm probably going to make a recommendation that they come forward with a letter either at the next board meeting or the one following, just because if there is going to be any action to be considered by the state, the sooner they know about it from the town, the better. And you guys probably have a little bit more lag time, I would think. So I'll see what I can do in terms of getting some additional information from them, and I can get it to you through Jen. If they have it readily available to me, I'll do that. And I can give them a heads up about the concerns you talked about tonight.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I'm just wondering if you're kind of looking for that, if we should, if the commission is agreeable to that, put it into a memo form tonight, because we won't meet again till March 8th. So you're
yeah.
losing time.
Yeah, well, that would be great. Yeah. Because
You want me to poll the commission?
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful to this.
Yes, I do too. Chris, how do you feel about the proposed?
I think, given what we've discussed, I would be for it.
Nate,
I'm for it.
Mike?
Yeah, as long as there's reasonable accommodations for the replication of lost resource areas, I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Mike. I would, some kind of replication if, based on the disturbance.
And depending how it is in 310 CMR, they may be beholden to that. I just need to look and see what it says for public projects.
Oh, did we skip Rob, or did he already take off?
I'm here.
Hey,
I'm in favor. I'm in accord.
Oh, I'm sorry. You dropped off my screen.
that's it. You're on the screen. You're not here. All right. Well, hey, I think through
My
much
apologies,
milling about,
Rob.
we've come to a consensus that there's an opportunity here. Do you think that the finances will? This is not a inexpensive undertaking. Are there funds available for this type of project, or would we be still looking for grant money or some sort, or is DOT going to pay for it?
Well, the fact that they have sidewalks in, I think this is probably going to be one where a little political pressure will go a long way. So I'll let the board do their work, and we'll go from there.
All right.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Dave.
Then we'll do our
Okay.
job when you get to us. Get it to us as quick as you can.
I will.
So-
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Thank
So
you,
Dave,
Dave.
I'll put together a memo along those lines.
Okay, thank you. You guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Right.
Jennifer, I think you should make that memo to Dave to pass on to Mass DOT.
Yep.
Okay. Greenbrier,
Who is it?
Greenbrier 2 zoning relief from
Oh.
local wetland bylaws and stormwater review.
What is,
It's-
so,
Oh, right. Okay, engineer.
oh, you know, what? I'm sorry, Richard. So there is a hand raised. I just want to make sure that it's Mark Mariano with Oak Hill, that he didn't have a question relative to that project.
To the
That there was
44?
discussion. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't have a question. Just at the end of the meeting, if I have just one question for the board on a project.
Okay.
Oh, he's waiting to the
Is-
very end then.
Is it a simple question?
Yes, I think so. I have a client that's interested in a piece of property. We had it flagged. The lot is, was originally created in 1911. And there's a good amount of wetlands on it. What is the threshold for holding to the 50-foot no structures? What is the date?
So in terms of seeking a like no structure variance request.
Yeah,
So just keep in mind that the variances are always at the commission's discretion. So even if it qualifies to request a variance, it's still discretionary. But to answer your question, it's based on when the bylaw and the regulation was created. So 1911 is definitely way before both of those.
Yeah.
As long as they don't subdivide it or anything, they would still qualify.
so it's one of those parcels that's when subdivided in 1911, it makes up like 10 small little lots.
Oh, I know what those are. Those
Five
were from the,
lots? There's
those
five
were from the
lots?
cereal company.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Are they all, have they all been held in common ownership the whole time?
Oh, I did not research that, but I can check that. Likely, probably not. I mean, since 1911.
No, they
I can
weren't.
check that. The other question is, it is currently cleared, and they looks like they do gardening on it right now. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It's obviously not going to be garden. It's not going to be for agricultural use like we did on County Street many years ago, but
Is this on Walker Street?
now it's on land.
On where?
Land.
Lynn.
Oh, yep.
Well, you know what? I think we need to see something on our desk.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, the quick question, at the discretion of the commission, we could issue a variance. That one meets the criteria.
Okay.
Are you still keeping all the structures outside the 25?
No, I think that's the issue.
I think I can keep the structures outside the 25 because now you're getting to the limit of like constructability. Like you need at least 20, 25 feet to properly work around a house.
Yeah, and you need room for a septic. How are you going to get past the septic issue? Do you have room for a 50 feet setback to the resource area?
All right, Jen, I do have a little image of like where the line was from my wetlands guy, if you want me to share it quickly.
Oh boy, this is. I thought
They
it was
heard quick a couple of times now, Mark.
like. So what happened to simple question?
Okay, I stopped sharing, so hopefully you can share, but there might be a little delay.
My suggestion would be doing an RDA at a minimum.
That's the cheapest version of asking us.
Yep.
Oh, are you talking right now, Mark? Because we can't hear you.
Oh, you got muted. You're on mute.
Sorry. So this line is currently the wetland line, well, as he flagged it, but it's, he just sketched this. I gotta pick it out and survey, but,
Yep.
you know, they're in the due diligence period where is it even worth building on? And that was my first question is, all right, so it would fall within that parameter.
It does not look like there's a whole lot of room for anything there.
Well, yeah.
Sure don't.
Given the setbacks, but it would qualify under variance, so, or
It would qualify for consideration.
consideration, okay. Obviously, the end goal is a single family home here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I can do a little bit more work on it then.
All right.
That's all I needed to know.
Okay, I didn't want to keep you hanging. I don't know how long these other discussions are going to run.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, discussion, Greenbrier 2 zoning relief, local wetlands bylaw and stormwater review.
Yeah, let me share my screen real quick in case you guys have a chance to look. So I had sent an email. They haven't officially submitted their letter to zoning yet. My concern is that zoning only has so much time to turn around a response under a 40B. So this is going to be proposed as a 40B project. And depending on the timing of our next conservation hearing in relation to when they submit it to zoning, it may not give the commission a lot of time to kind of express concerns to the zoning board prior to the zoning board needing to take action. So the draft zoning relief letter is requesting relief from all of the local wetland bylaws and from stormwater peer review process. So both of those to me are a big concern for this project from the commission's perspective, and just kind of wanted to take a look at that with the commission and also kind of gauge if the commission feels they want to issue a memo at this point to zoning so that we have it when it is submitted to zoning. So we're kind of prepared.
So if this is the, this area we had looked at when they put in the initial Greenbrier development.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that green splotchy kind of thingy there, right there in the
This
center.
one,
Yes,
that's a certified vernal pool.
correct. And so that's both state and local. And then there is some wetlands down further, right behind the parking lot for the old theater.
Yep, there's
Down in
3.
there, there's some wetlands, and even back towards the other end of the parking lot, we found some wetlands.
Back in this area here.
Yeah, there was some over in there.
Okay, I know there's some definitely down here.
Yeah, that's probably where it was.
So
My feeling is that because we're two things. One, that vernal pool is not too far from where they do their injection for the septic systems. My other concern, and if they're looking to get a variance from that or a relief from that, I'm assuming that they want to fill it in or completely eliminate it, and I'm against that.
Yes.
I think that possibly plays they would have to do some kind of a study, a geodetical study, to see whether that vernal pool helps dilute and flow through the septic system.
So I'm gonna pause here just for a second. Nate, do you need to recuse yourself from the discussion?
I recuse myself from the discussion.
So I had a question for you. Isn't Greenbrier still an ongoing thing that hasn't been finished? Like, don't we have a whole lot of outstanding issues that were agreed upon by this applicant years ago, and that you know, maybe I'm on my soapbox a little bit here, but you know, to come and ask for variances when we didn't meet the requirements that we established it the first time around, to me,
Right.
doesn't seem like the path forward.
But so it's not,
I'm not willing to give up any of the resource areas rights for the sake of,
it's not up to us. So they're gonna come to zoning and
Right.
ask for relief from the local wetland bylaws, and we have no say in that. So this is what I'm trying to get at, is communicating our concerns to zoning is really important, because zoning ultimately will make that decision for the local bylaws. They
Correct.
would still need to file for any state protected wetland resource areas, but these potential vernal pools don't lie within a BBW, so they're not protected under the state. An isolated vegetated wetland under
not.
certain size isn't protected under the state. So almost all of this wetland area on this site is only going to
local.
be protected under our local bylaw. And if they
I
are
would,
relieved from it,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, Jennifer. Is I think that the commission needs to make it very clear to zoning that we are opposed to relief from the local bylaws.
specifically on those points. Those are,
right.
Primarily because this is something that is, it's necessary to keep the town with an aquifer that's a usable, portable water. And every time you remove one of these or you pave over something, that's diminished. And eventually we're going to get to the point where we're not going to have enough water for the individuals within town.
this represents a huge influx of septic effluent as well.
Well, yeah, there's that, but I'm more concerned is losing this as part of the aquifer recharge. Because it's a
But,
very,
I mean, you're recharging from the effluent instead. You're going to keep the recharge, but you're going to get it through the poop pipe first.
And we're losing storage capacity is what you're saying here, Richard. We're losing
yes,
in-ground storage capacity for the aquifer for recharging rather than flowing off across a parking lot of a new building.
Right.
I think it's also flood capacity. You know, we are losing a lot of flood capacity in these big rain events that we're now getting more and more, big snow events, when you fill in these areas.
Sure.
And I think I would use that in the argument to them. You know,
Right.
values to the town that could be lost is our argument here.
And I think too, knowing that that larger vernal pool is certified just goes to the fact that the potential vernal pools have a greater potential to actually be functioning vernal pools, right? I mean, they're so close in proximity.
yeah, there's those two other blue ones you got circled around down there.
Yeah, and then there's two here that may be connected, and then there's a
Right.
third one down here, and then there's another one over here.
Which under the bylaw was probably another vernal pool.
Right. That's what I'm saying, under our bylaw. So if they get relief, almost all of these areas become vulnerable to whatever they propose for development. In this case, they're proposing a playground, right, sandwiched in the middle of all of it. And then stormwater structures. So just, I mean, you know, this is obviously not anything that's been officially submitted. They were supposed to be filing with us for this month. And then I think they kind of backtrack on that, realizing that maybe they should be going to zoning first.
Does that give you enough information for a letter to draft what we've discussed to zoning?
Yeah, I mean, going back to, I mean, everything from what Mike was discussing in terms of outstanding expired orders of conditions on the current project, to Richard's concerns with the recharge and effluent, those sort of things. Yeah, I mean, I think all that could be put in there. I also think it's important to touch on relief from the stormwater peer review. So even if by chance they say, yeah, we're going to grant you relief from conservation's local wetland bylaws, the stormwater peer review I think is really important too. To get relief on that is basically taking them at their word that it's developed properly and
We've
analyzed.
yet to have a peer review that hasn't come back with something substantive.
And
Right.
once again, with the change in the kinds of storms we're having, that peer review is really, really important to protect the town and the town's resources. You know, I could say wildlife value here, but I think the argument for wildlife value, unfortunately, is not as strong.
Mhm.
I think
No, it's not.
impacts on the town and the values of the town's water, as you say, Richard, are much more powerful.
Yeah, I think that's where we really need to focus. Jennifer, you mentioned that they were going to file with us, but then they came to the conclusion that they should probably go to ZBA first.
Yeah, so I mean, they didn't end up filing with us yet. And so my assumption is that it makes more sense for them to go to ZBA first, right? If they're requesting relief from our local bylaws, why would they come to us first?
I'm
So would
surprised.
they still have to file under the act?
Yes,
No,
it says they're not asking for release from it.
They can't ask for relief from that. But
Correct.
my understanding for the vernal pools, and Richard, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is even if it's certified, if it doesn't lie within another resource area, so if it's not within BVW, that it's not protected under the act.
under
No,
the act, correct.
I think that's the other way around. My understanding of, so if you have, what you're trying to decide is what's the vernal pool habitat, right? The vernal pool is the high water mark of the ponding for the depression that's being called a vernal pool.
Correct.
Vernal pool habitat extends 100 feet up gradient or until it meets the border of the wetland resource that it's contained within. So I was always under the impression that if that area of ponding of the vernal pool extends beyond the limit of the BVW, the vernal pool habitat is that high water mark plus 100 feet.
Yeah, but there is no BVW here. That's what I'm saying. That it's
So
just
what I'm
the
saying
vernal-
is,
it's just
but
the
you have a
vernal pool.
ponding. So if it's a certified vernal pool, then the resource areas look like this. You have limit of vernal pool, limit of vernal pool, which is the high water mark. If that is not contained within, is just an ILSF, right? But
That's what it
meets the
is.
criteria of vernal pool, then my understanding, the way I've read it, is that then it's 100 feet. It's almost like it's better for it to not be inside.
It only has the vernal pool status until it's certified. Up till that point, it's isolated, subject to flooding.
I understand, but that's what she's saying. What I'm saying is if those were certified vernal pools that weren't contained within another resource, then the limit of the vernal pool habitat would be the high water mark plus 100 feet.
Okay. I can check with Mass DEP on that.
Yeah.
As I'm drafting.
But it still doesn't affect the letter we're drafting, which is, it's good to know.
But I think to the point on the letter to ZBA, I think that we really got to push the water protection, groundwater and potable water for the town.
And flooding capacity too.
You know, I think that some language in there about responsible stewardship needs to be included. In other words, that we understand in the town of Seekonk, and that as members of the town of Seekonk and what are we? We live here. We're residents of the town of Seekonk. As residents of I'm getting a little punch drunk here. As residents of the town of Seekonk, we decided in 1995 that we would have these rules and regulations to govern the development of land in the town of Seekonk, and if they were responsible stewards, that they would live by the rules as they were established, and that seeking relief,
Well, I
hate 40Bs for that reason. Is that
I know
it's
it's
like you're jumping the line.
It's like a dog chasing its tail.
Never mind the additional impervious area, never mind the additional effluent flow out of that septic system. It's like.
All right, so can you draft something up?
Yeah. And then just, I guess it's kind of figuring out, is this something that if I get a draft together and can email that out to everyone, does
Yeah.
it still need to come back to us on March 8th on
When
the
is,
agenda?
when does ZBA meet next?
Do you know, Kim? When ZBA meets next? Give me just a sec. March 8th.
They
Same
meet
night as us,
Also,
same night as we do.
are they doing Zoom remote?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And they start the same time as us, right? At 7? Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, draft that up and send it out to everybody for comment.
Sure. And then is that something then that you want to kind of have a consensus on moving forward with
Yes.
here?
Well, I think we do. I
Okay.
haven't heard any objections.
Okay.
Does anybody object to
Nope.
asking ZBA to not grant a relief from our regulations?
I say we hold on to our regulations for dear life.
Yep. Okay, fee schedule for additional reviews.
Sure. So basically, the Board of Selectmen looks at this annually, and each department is asked if we have any fee modifications that we want to make. Ours is tied into our regulations as a appendix under the local bylaw. So I don't, in the way it reads in the regulation, we don't have to make any adjustments to the language of the regulation, just to the appendix. If we were looking to do any changes. And the one change that I would see from my perspective, if we're not gonna, wholesale re-examine the fee structure, would be that, I know Board of Health, for instance, they have a re-inspection fee that they charge if they have to go back out to a site, or a resubmittal fee if they have to review plans again. From my perspective, the re-inspection one is a big one, because I can't tell you how many sites I've had to go out to 2, 3, 4 times because they're just not ready. They don't have their signs up, they don't have their erosion controls installed correctly, and it just would be, I think, helpful in kind of driving home the point. Don't make your site visit. Don't make an appointment with me unless you're actually ready.
Right.
And to not waste time. I mean, if
No,
I could have that time and dedicate it to other things for the commission, it would be much more valuable.
So if you look at the regulations, I believe the last paragraph states that we can change the regulation after holding a public comment period.
Mhm.
That's all we have to do. We don't have to go back to the Secretary of State. We do not have to go back to the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
So all we have to do is post it. People can make their comments, and then commission votes on it, and that's the end. But I think also at the same time, Jennifer, I think you need to take a look at the fees we charge for our delineations.
Okay. You want to kind of compare them to some other towns?
Well, technically you have to do a time management study on it. You cannot charge a fee that is greater than the cost to conduct what the fee is asking for. That's been upheld by the SJC on a number of occasions, and particularly Boston Gas versus the city of Somerville and Newton. The Supreme Court, the SJC ruled that you can only charge a fee to which it costs to do that particular function. So, I mean, take a look at what time it takes you if you want to adjust the other fees. If this is an annual thing,
right?
Maybe through the next year, we just do some little time study managements to see how long it takes you to do a delineation based on linear feet.
Okay.
We did it once before when I think it was Gail when we developed those regulations was
Okay.
here, and she did a time study to figure out how long it took her to do a particular task.
Okay.
And if we need to change that, maybe right now, just a minimal flat fee. But if you can get an estimate of how much time it takes you to go back
to each one of these sites? Is it 20 minutes? Is it 40? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours?
Right.
And then we can come up with a fee based on that.
Okay. So I don't know that. So for, we don't have a whole lot of notice before this would be before the Board of Selectmen. So I don't know that we have the turnaround time for that for this year, but I think, like you said,
Correct.
maybe it's worth revisiting for next year.
I think generally if you're somewhere in the $25 fee, somewhere in there, $25, $35, I think you would be on safe ground to say, I would assume it takes you more than an hour.
If I'm doing a delineation, I'm usually not going back out.
No, to do
This
a
is going out
return
for
visit,
inspections.
to
Yep.
do a return visit, to stop, to stop the influx of people not being fully prepared for
Right.
your arrival.
Right. Especially our frequent offenders would be really great.
Right. I think,
Um,
I think $25 is a fair fee and you would be probably safe. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think if you look at like my hourly rate and the amount of time, it would probably be more than that.
Right, then just base it on that and just say, well, figure an hour. Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? And you just use the average. If we get challenged on it, then we do the time study.
Okay. But we're looking at that for next year versus this year.
The time study?
No, to have the inspection fee added, the reinspection.
When is the Board of Selectmen going to vote on that?
So I believe they have it on their agenda in March to review them and then voting on it in April, I want to say.
So that's why I'm saying, just take a look at what an average is. Is it
Yep.
2 hours? Is it an hour? And
But
then
does that,
take a look at your hourly rate and just submit that to them so you can get it in for this year.
does that give us enough time to do the public comment period?
They have to vote on it first. We can do that afterwards.
Okay. All right.
And it would become effective. We're only asking them for permit. So you got to remember, under the Wetland Protection Act, we have the right to charge fees. We don't have to go to the Board of Selectmen.
Get more money.
Well, I mean, well, you do. You have people who, hey, come by, check
Well,
my
I think
erosion controls, and they're not even in place.
the best argument is that we haven't changed the fees in something like 10 years.
It's been a long time.
I think that even if you just did a quick back of the napkin compound interest thing, you'd add, 10 or 15 bucks an hour to whatever the
It's been a
current
long
rate.
time.
Right.
I think the delineation fees have been there since we pretty much had put the regulation in place.
Right.
I think it was adjusted once.
And, I would say that in the 4 years that I've been here, we started off pretty slow, but we've steadily picked up steam. And I know that Kim has been a split resource for us. And if the development continues down this road, having enough staff to actually staff things and not put it into Jen's 60th and 64th hour of the week would probably be a good thing. Because if Jen weren't here to put the time and effort in, then we wouldn't have enough money. If she's doing more than one person's worth of job because she's putting the time in, which I feel that she is, then that means that and that is exemplified by the fact that we haven't changed our rates in such a long time. Everybody has changed their rates.
We have not changed our rates, but like I
Raise
said,
them all.
state statute, you have to have basis by which you do that.
Right. Right. It just can't be arbitrary. I get that.
Correct.
And then, so, I mean, I guess to that point, hopefully, I mean, we're trying to move in the direction of having Kim be in our office more, but we'll see. That's yet to be determined, and hopefully we get that all worked out.
I think that's something we have to do through the Board of Selectmen.
Mm-hmm.
Sidebar. I'm going to read this. This is about vernal pool habitat, it
Mhm.
says, and you guys were correct, if in a resource area, protection extends to the certified vernal pool itself, as well to the portion of the 100-foot zone surrounding the certified vernal pool, referred to as vernal pool habitat. That is within a resource area. Wetland Protection Act protection of vernal pool habitat does not extend into non-jurisdictional upland or the buffer zone of a resource area. In summary, conservation commissions are empowered to prevent the impairment of the capacity of vernal pool habitat to function as wildlife habitat. So I was wrong.
Has to be-
Right.
The key is it has to
Somebody
be.
write the date down.
I'm gonna
has to-
etch it.
We ain't gonna let you forget it. It has to be a certified pool. That's the whole key.
Yeah, certified.
Certified.
How did that one get certified in the first place?
I think it was done back when Greenbrier 1 was going in, right?
Correct. It
Yeah.
So
was.
why do
We-
you think they stopped? Why did you stop at that one and not do
I
all
think they
three of
looked
them?
at, I think they looked at the other ones, but I don't know, what the timing was or,
Didn't have wood frog eggs in it that year or something.
right. Like maybe it was a low rain year, I don't know.
Well, that large one did have the frog eggs in it.
Right.
Those frog eggs are everywhere. If that's the only criteria you're going to use, we're living in one giant certified vernal pool. Those suckers keep me up at night.
And then just, I guess a real quick to add on to that fee discussion is, I know kind of in looking at that, it triggers for me that we were trying to work on revising the regulations and revisiting those. So not so much the bylaw, because I think that requires a whole different can of
That's
worms. but the
that's a
regulations.
bigger animal.
But one thought that I had in terms of having the time to dedicate to that, because our agendas are already so long and we don't usually have short agendas where we can have the time to look at those in a dedicated fashion, was that maybe it's worth considering using some of that revolving fund money that we have to look at having a consultant help us with that and kind of get us to the point where they've done a lot of the homework for us and have put together suggested revisions based on other towns, based on what our challenges are here, where we feel we need to toughen up or expand regulations and kind of get us a little bit closer to getting those revisions done. For what it's just food for thought, and then we can discuss it more at another.
You
Would
gotta,
it
yeah,
have
you
to go
gotta
out?
be, you
Sorry.
gotta be careful of using too much money out of that fund.
Oh, I agree. No, we don't want to drain it down, but I just think
Correct.
it would be
So
helpful.
when we first started with that account, and I'm going back quite a few years, there were times when it was empty. So we kind of got it to the point where we had, at one point, we were in the 6 digits. That's when we were getting filings after filings. On any one day, you get 4 or 5 come in on any day. So I understand what you're saying. I mean, we can explore it, but before we expend it, I think we need to have another
Right.
discussion.
Would we have to send this out for a bid, or could we select someone?
If it's $5,000 or less, no. If it's 5,000 to 20, I think it's 25,000. You need to get 3 quotes. If it's over 25,000, you have to put an RFP.
So if it's under 5, so if the first
It's under
investigation,
5,000. Right, it's under 5,000. You can make phone calls and say, how much would it cost to do this? You document it, you get a quote from them. From 5 to 50, I think it's 25,000.
I think it's 30 now, but I could be wrong.
Is it 20?
I think it's 30.
Is it going to 30?
I
Yes.
believe so.
25,000. So from
Do we-
5 to 25,000, you can just award the contract. Over that, or 30,000 if it is now, what I bet probably is, you have to do an RFP.
do you have someone in mind? Is this something you've thought through, Jen, or is this just?
Nope, this is just shooting from the hip, thinking about, as we're discussing the fee schedule, I know we haven't come back in a long, long time to looking at those regulations.
Yeah, COVID doesn't help though. I mean, I feel like we made some headway when we were all sitting at a table together. And,
Do we want to take a shot at it, each of us? Just go through, make edits to it, and then throw it into the pile and
you know what? I don't think that type of, I think you need a framework and you make decisions. Like, because if everyone shows up, is got their own working copy of this thing, that I think there needs to be a mastermind.
No doubt, no doubt.
So, and back to my original point, like not trying to generate the 60th through 64th hour of our work week.
Whatever. I'm just throwing it out there. Whatever. I mean, go poke the coals and see if you get
Richard, this could be your opus. Get that Word document out. Come on, dig in. I heard you're retired. I heard you're retired.
I am. I'm semi-retired now. I'm doing more the honeydew list I'm chipping away at.
All right, guys, it's getting late. What else?
Yep. Just
we have
minutes.
We have minutes. Yep.
So I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes of January 11th, 2021.
Second.
And Rob, we got your edits and made your edits.
Nice.
Picky any proofreading stuff.
Thank you, Rob.
Appreciate it.
I told Kim I've been grading papers on Sunday night for too many students and I couldn't help myself but looking for typos.
Thank you for
That is not cool, man.
I made a motion here.
You don't want to go read mine then.
I do the
spell
same
check is
thing.
your friend. But you know what? It's never duck. It's never.
I need a second, guys.
All right.
I seconded it already.
Okay, all right.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye, Mike
All
Campagnone.
opposed?
Rob Emlin, aye.
Chris Carney, aye.
Nathan Sosha, aye.
Richard Wallace, aye. Is that it?
That's it.
German.
Close the public hearing.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to close this session of the Seekonk Conservation Commission.
Go for it, Chris.
At 10:32.
So move, Chris Carney.
Second, Mike Campagnone.
All in favor?
Nay. No, just kidding. Aye. Mike Campagnone.
You just want to talk about chickens some more.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye, Chris
Rob
Carney.
Emlin.
Aye.
All right,
Nick Sosha.
guys.
Rob, you have any questions, any comments? Are you having fun?
Hey, having a great time. I did notice that when I went to look on channel 9, that not only is the meeting recorded, but our Shooting the Breeze at 7 is recorded also.
I always assume that it is, and I'm very careful and
Well, I'm
polite.
watching that little red light flashing on and off there.
I think they just turn it on and then go.
Yeah.